Whew. How do you say your last name?
Conse Sao?
Conse Sao.
Do you really want to try that? Yeah.
Conse.
Say Sao.
Conse Sao.
Yeah.
Conse
Conse
Sao.
Sao. Yeah.
Conse Sao.
Not bad.
Brandon Conse
Not
Sao.
bad. I don't think I've ever phonetically broken it down for someone like that, though.
That was easy.
Yeah.
Conse Sao.
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 Sao. It's Brazilian, Portuguese.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, Portuguese.
Oh.
Yeah. Not Brazilian,
Makes
Portuguese.
sense.
Yeah.
But Portuguese.
Yeah.
The less
Portugal.
cool Portuguese.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Dude, so happy you're here. I'm excited to talk with you.
I'm honored to be here, man. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, dude, we got a lot to discuss. We've been discussing a lot already.
I know. I almost was like, maybe we should dial it back, but yeah, we're finally sitting, so.
I had that poke a couple times, but usually, I don't know. Sometimes with this type of stuff, it just happens and everything figures itself out. So the big reason I invited you on and the reason that I came across you is that you made a YouTube video talking about how you met Babaji. And so I guess I'm really curious in hearing this whole story of how you met Mahavatar Babaji. But for people who may not know, who in the world is Mahavatar Babaji?
Yeah, so Mahavatar Babaji is a part of, for what people know modernly, is a part of a lineage of gurus made famous, I should say, or made known to the Western world through Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda, and the lineage of gurus in which he proclaimed, which was Mahavatar Babaji, Krishna, Jesus Christ, Lahiri Mahashaya, and Sri Yukteswarji, and then obviously Yogananda himself. So Babaji is an immortal. He's a soul that's been coming to this planet and doing spiritual work for, thousands upon thousands, probably upon millions of years, And so that's my understanding of who Babaji is. And some other texts allude that he's Shiva. So again, when I think of Babaji, I think of Shiva.
Okay, and so then what kind of trips me up, right, is he's been coming here for millions of years. So it's like he's had then many names, right? Is that because like you're saying that it's Shiva, it's Babaji? How does like the whole naming thing play into this? It's just the same energy?
Well, yeah. So energy is not created or destroyed. It just shifts forms. So if he, let's say he takes birth upon this planet, he's going to be given a name by his parents and whatnot. So, and then he passes on, but he's immortal. So he never, your soul never actually dies. So when he wakes up in whatever realm he's in at that point, or takes birth again in some other form, he'll take on a different name. But at the end of the day, his soul's the same. It's the same with the Dasha-avatar. You know Dasha-avatar?
No, I don't.
So the 10 avatars of Vishnu.
Okay.
Right? So Vishnu is said to have manifested into 10 avatars onto this planet.
And an avatar being just like a incarnation of God?
Incarnation of God, yeah. And specifically Dasha-avatars, the 10 avatars come to this planet to restore Dharma on this planet. And so Mahavishnu took birth as all these avatars, and eventually, it's the same energy. It's the same person behind all of them, right? So it, like Ram, Krishna, it's the same energy, but takes birth in different form. That's it. So
then I guess what would be tripping me up, like how do we know that the person who is alive today is that same energy? Is Shiv this holy God that exists beyond and is the text that we all are pointing to?
Right. So I want to clarify. I never met Babaji physically. I met Babaji in the astral layer. So I, was on my meditation journey, staying very true, devoted to my practice, and Babaji came to me in the astral layer and communicated to me there. So it wasn't like...
What do you mean by astral layer?
Astral layer, when you go inside deep meditation, right? And you're able to physically see things, and not again, here we go, physically. No, but you're able to see beyond just your open eyes type of thing. So I think one of the meditations in the Yogoda Satsanga Society or the SRF is you can see a spiritual inner eye in one of the meditations, right?
Yeah.
Are you seeing it with your eyes open? where are you seeing that? And what layer are you seeing that?
Like, where is that light coming from?
Yeah, exactly. So when you do that meditation and you can see that spiritual eye and your eyes are closed, what layer are you in? Right? When you have a dream at night, where are you seeing these dreams? Your eyes are closed the entirety of the night. What layer are you seeing all of these things play out in?
And that's what we're calling the astral.
Astral. That's the astral.
Okay.
Astral layer. Yeah.
And that's even would tie into when people talk about like astral projection or lucid. I guess lucid dreaming might be a bit different.
I don't have much experience with all of that.
Okay.
But I could imagine that it would be similar to that. Yes.
So I guess like in this context, to me, astral projection is being able to project your consciousness then through the astral and being able to see a different physical place on Earth at this time.
Okay. Yeah. That's not what my experience with Babaji was. It was more
let's get back then to what you know.
Yeah. No, that's beyond
we'll
my
save that
experience.
for an astral projector.
Yeah.
Well, I've had one on the show before, and so that's where like I think I'm just like connecting the dots of like, maybe they're just like using the astral as a bridge, like out of the physical back into the physical.
Right.
That's speculation, but we can get back to Babaji.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in a deep meditation. Did you say anything to like invoke this? Was this something that just naturally happened?
So I can get into the story of how it happened. Do you want me to tell the story?
Let's do it.
All right. So I definitely want to preface it with my background. I grew up in the Western world, grew up in the United States, northeastern part, New England. Shout out to anybody in New England. And I knew from a very young age that I saw the world differently than everybody else around me. I think I was probably in kindergarten when I realized, like, I'm not as interested in everything around me as everybody else seems. I want to know more about the place we are, who I am, what's going on. And this is like thoughts of a 5-year-old or 6-year-old child, which is absolutely, when I look back, it's very bizarre.
Yeah,
so
5-year-olds, I think I was interested with like Thomas the Tank Engine or something.
Yeah, right. So that's a great point, because I'd see kids who were interested in Thomas the Tank Engine. I'm like, what's the interest there? I don't see anything there. I don't understand why people love this stuff so much. It was so bizarre to me. And so naturally I had like questions as a child, which was not, again, when I look at my peers and I try to explain my experience to my peers, maybe I didn't do it in the first grade, but like as you go on in life, you're like, why is my experience different than yours? What's going on here?
Hey, real quick, pull your mic just a little bit further away.
Away.
Just a little bit. And sometimes it helps if it's like shifted so you can like speak off to the side of it.
Like that?
Like kind of like, so you see how you're speaking straight into it versus,
Angle.
Angle it a little bit.
Let me get this.
You can shift it back the other way too.
I don't know which side it is. There we go.
There you go. If you spin it. Yeah. So that might not do the spinning. You might just have to physically spin it a little bit.
I got you.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah, then now you have to tighten it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good?
So it's kind of more, see if I can, like that.
Oh,
yeah.
I got you.
So that way you're speaking like across it as opposed to directly into it.
Okay.
Like see how it's like not dead on?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Better?
Yeah, then just
pull it back in.
And then move it right there. There you go. You cool with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cool.
So we're apologies for that.
Yeah,
but you're in the middle of like realizing that Thomas the Tank Engine isn't the coolest thing in the world.
I mean, yeah. So essentially, as you go up, going through school, whatnot, I just remember my dad. I would have these drives to school with my dad in the morning, and he would be explaining business stuff to me, and I kind of got a sense for like, wow, like the world works in a funny way. Something just doesn't seem right here. Like how corrupt everything seemed in the way the world was. And I finally got to high school and I was like, that was like the most eye-opening thing for me was when I got to high school. I'm like, wow, I don't really fit in with people. Like I can fit in, I can play the part, I can act the role, but that's when people really start to come into their personalities and like start to figure out who they are. Is that because middle school for me was just fun. There was no really like fears or, I mean, a little bit of middle school anxiety, whatever. But I remember high school, I really started to like get some anxiety. I'm like, wow, like the people around me in my school, it just doesn't seem like I belong here. Need mind you, I went to Catholic schools my whole life. My parents never really forced religion on me, but I just went to Catholic schools, and so I knew all about, you know, Catholicism.
I'm always curious. Whenever people go to Catholic school, I'm always interested. Did you ever read the Bible? Did they ever like have a Bible for you to read?
Well, we had masses in school, and like, yeah, we'd go through the Bible sometime, but it wasn't like we had religion class. It was just like, you know, you'd had a religion textbook just like any other subject, and you'd study about, you know, Christianity or
But
Catholic
like what?
stuff.
Like the history of it, or like
Stories, different like, yeah, like learning the vocabulary, which was kind of the boring side of things. I always loved the stories.
okay.
Like if we stuck to the Bible and just like read the stories of Jesus, that would have been cool by me.
Yeah.
But when they're like, you know, learn about the Pope and all this stuff, I'm like, I didn't really care. Like the vocabulary Eucharist and like.
You would think you would spend that time learning about Jesus or what
No.
he did.
No. Catholic Church is very much focused on continuing their Catholic ways.
Okay.
So I'm more of a believer in Jesus than anything else. I don't believe in like any specific religion. I believe in Jesus the same way I believe in Buddha, the same way I believe in Krishna. So that's just my mindset towards things. But it was cool to have that experience of like getting a deep knowledge on Jesus growing up. And I never grew attached to the whole, you know, you got to go to church every Sunday. I'm a sinner if I don't type of thing. So I never really.
It's pretty powerful too.
Yeah, well, I never felt that way because you know why? It was, and I would see my religion teachers. That's how you base, you know, your morals off of. You don't base it off of what you're being taught. You base it off of who's teaching it when you're that age. So I look at my teacher and I'm like, you definitely don't follow all of this. Like everything you're teaching me from this textbook sheet, like I'm like, you definitely don't follow all this. So I'm like, why should I?
Yeah.
There's no point in that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like the idea of, you know, it's like pay attention to who you're getting the advice from, because it's like, do you really want that advice?
Yeah.
Is that the advice that you really want and need at this time?
Yeah.
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 That's powerful stuff, dude.
Yeah. So yeah, but beyond that, so I had that upbringing, and so I just remember wanting answers. I finally had this point in my life where I'm like, all right, I decided I don't want to be an outcast. I want to fit in. I think a lot of people have that choice in life where they're like, well, do I continue down my unique path where I'm just not fitting in with anyone, or do I just succumb and, you know, do what everybody else is doing? And that's what I did in high school. My last 2 years, I'm just like, I'm just going to fit in, try to do what all the cool kids do and see what happens. And, you know, that led to a whole, you know, partying, all this stuff. And everybody says it's so normal, you know, just go and party. It's what every teenager does, blah, blah, blah. And deep down, I'm like, I just feel like I'm becoming more and more disconnected with who I am. And I'm just becoming more and more unhappy with what's going on. And so came time for college. I really tried to fit in again, do the thing for another year or half a year. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I just hit my breaking point. I'm like, I am so done with everybody telling me what I'm doing is normal, with everybody saying this is what, you know, people your age do. It's like, no, I'm done. I want answers. I'm done with the anxiety. I'm done with the depression. I want answers to life. I have these burning questions inside me. Something's got to give.
Do you remember like what those questions were?
Yeah. What's the point of all this? What am I doing here? Why are we here? Like, so everybody around me, when we were in high school, I think it was my junior year, everybody's getting ready to apply for colleges. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to do this. And I'm like, dude, you know what you want to do for the rest of your life?
40 years.
Like, how are you so sure about all of this? And I was so confused. I didn't even want to apply to go to college. I didn't want to go to college at all. I eventually dropped out. But the point was, I didn't understand how everybody was so certain around me. I was so uncertain. I didn't know. I didn't have answers. And so, lo and behold, we get to college. All of those kids changed their majors like 3 or 4 times. You know, all the ones that were so certain. But
oh, that's got to be interesting too, because that's also another thing that I've always kind of had like a weird trip on is like certainty. Like, how do you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, especially whenever going back to your religious teachers, it's like, okay, you're not following this, so why should I be listening to it?
Right.
Like getting that mixed signal. It's like, oh, like you don't actually know. You're not even listening to what you're teaching. It's like, so you say you know what you want to do, but now a year down the road, 5 months, you're like, let's do something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel like that like warped or had any like consequences maybe at the time on you knowing, like knowing what the energy of knowing is?
So you're saying when I was in high school?
Yeah, like being surrounded with people who quote unquote know.
So the only thing I knew at that time is that I knew I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Okay.
That was it. And that's the only thing I knew. I knew I was uncertain. And what bothered me so much wasn't so much my uncertainty. It was everybody else's certainty. But that's the world we live in.
Interesting.
Everybody pretends like... I realized I came after I hit that breaking point at 19 and I did some soul searching. I realized nobody knows anything. They pretend, they'll put on this facade, they'll say, yeah, I know, for sure, this is what I want to do. But then you have a real conversation with them and you look at their life and they don't know what they're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing at the end of the day. So, I mean, very few souls are very confident and set, yes, this is my life's purpose without any doubt beyond it. So
it's interesting that for me, at least, that tends to pop up in different fields, like podcasting, like example, like being podcasting. Like I know I'm supposed to be podcasting because I constantly like it's almost like a questioning. I'm like checking in with, you know, higher powers. Like, am I supposed to be podcasting? It's like, yes. It's like, okay, cool. I'll just keep doing that. Versus if it's like a relationship, like sometimes it's like, okay, where's this a person supposed to fall? Like, I don't always exactly know right away. It's like, is this a friend? Is this a romantic partner? Like sometimes there isn't that direct knowing, but it's interesting how I feel like, at least in my life, it appears in certain realms. Like, okay, I know here or I know there. But other times it's like, maybe we're not supposed to know yet in this situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, life's a process.
Yeah.
And unfolding. So naturally, sometimes you'll go into a situation and you're not going to know the guaranteed outcome right away, but over time you come to know somebody's character or whatever. You're like, okay, well, maybe I am supposed to hang out with them more. So
wouldn't it be fun if we just always knew?
Yeah. Well, there's a balance, because as time goes on and you become more self-aware and you grow into your inner eye, you open your inner eye more, you do come to know certain things. And there's a large degree of certainty that enters your life that wasn't there before, and a large degree of confidence that enters your life that perhaps wasn't there before. So I appreciate having that in my life now, definitely, versus the days where I was just unsure of everything. So
I'm sure a lot of that confidence, to get us back on track, has to do with your interaction with Babaji.
Yeah. So again, I had that breaking point at 19. I'm like, okay, I need to I need answers. I need real answers, because I'm not happy in life. I want to be happy. I don't want to go down this route of just working the rest of my life and getting a house and having kids and just being married, which, you know, maybe that will happen at some point, but that's not like, I want something more out of life.
You don't want like the program of it.
Exactly.
It wants to be like that deep knowing.
It's like I already, like, okay, I can see this path. It's so clear to me. All right. Everybody does it, or most people go down that road. I'm like, is there any other path I can take? Is there any other way? And so started reading all these books, because the school wasn't teaching me anything I wanted to know. And I went on this journey where I just completely stopped partying, stopped hanging out with all my friends, just went full like hermit mode. Is that what a hermit is?
Hermit
right,
mode,
yeah. And I stayed in every weekend. Still, I think college online or something, and because my parents were like, you have to go to college. And so,
Of course.
yeah. And so I'm just reading books every weekend, spiritual books.
Do you remember which ones?
Oh, yeah, dude. I remember it started with Osho, I think. It's called Freedom, the book called Freedom. And that really blew my mind. It was deep to a level that I've never gone before. And it kind of just like explains societal programming. And, you know, some people can read that book and think nothing the difference, right?
Okay.
But for me, it just spoke to me. It spoke to my experiences in life. It spoke to everything that I had thought, you know? And so it was kind of like a soul awareness thing. And so I started reading Osho, and then I started reading some Eckhart Tolle, or maybe Eckhart Tolle came first. I forget. The Power of Now and Presence and Awareness. And then I read Inner Engineering by Sadhguru, which is my first introduction to the mystical arts of like energy work and sacred geometry, and just kind of like a lot of Eastern philosophy there, and the Vedic sciences, if you will, or just the sciences there. And so then I found my way eventually. I think I saw on TV, and I started practicing meditation. I'm probably like 21, 22 at this point. I had started practicing meditation, and I saw Yogananda's documentary, which was probably on Netflix at the time, I think. And I watched it randomly. And this was before I was really heavy into the spiritual side of things. I had just been reading, so it was more like intellectual stuff. And then I watched this, and I was kind of just blown away. It was just like, wow, this experience was pretty cool. And so
what about it like blew you away?
You know, I think it's more so how his disciples and the people around him spoke about him. I think that says a lot about it. Told me a lot about his character and who he was, and just there was this one scene where it was like he was just so sure of himself, you know, the guidance he had. And like, so Yogananda was saying to one of his disciples or whatever, devotees, I forget, was speaking about how he's like, you know, do I have to give up drugs and partying and blah, blah, blah? And Yogananda's like, listen, I'm not going to tell you to give up anything. He says, but I can't guarantee that if you keep coming here, you're not going to want to give those things up on your own. So if you keep coming and practicing these meditations, naturally you're just going to lose interest in those things. And that had been my experience. So just like hearing his wisdom and like his insights, like the way he spoke, and it was just beautiful to me. I loved every second of it. And believe it or not, it was probably like another year that went by before I actually read, or maybe it was a year, I forget. But then I read the autobiography of a yogi, and that is when things really changed for me, like big time changed. I think you've read the book as well, right? And so that was really my best introduction into the guru-disciple relationship. And I had read about the guru-disciple relationship before in multiple other books, but that was more of like the experience I was looking for. I wanted a guru. I wanted to meet my guru. I wanted to learn under and at the feet of my guru. That's one of my biggest longings. So when I read about Yogananda's experience with his gurus, it was like, yep, my soul immediately knew. My inner eye, everything tingled. I'm like, this is for me. And so I started doing all this research. How do I find my guru? How do I find my guru? And so I ended up going to the SRF Boston location, one of the temples that they had there. And I kind of just, I had a hard time finding the place. I'm like, what's going on? Like, it was a winter night. It was kind of snowing outside. I'm like struggling to find this place. I actually showed up to the wrong address and walked in someone's house because their door was open. And I'm like calling up the stairs like, hello. I'm like, this can't be the right spot. And so I left. But then I persevered and eventually found the temple that night. And I walked in, and it was this eerie feeling. I'm like, whoa, like the energy here is totally different. And so,
in like a good way or bad way?
in a new way. It was just an experience I had never had before, where the whole space was empowered by the lineage of gurus, and so many people go there to worship those gurus. So their energy was just emanating there. So it's a very mystical feeling. And I was used to just going to church, and when you're used to going to church, you don't really feel that same. It's a different energy when you walk into a church versus a temple with the SRF gurus. It's just a different energy I had never experienced. So, but I felt it the second I walked in the door. I was like, whoa, this place is definitely different. There's something different about this place. And so I was greeted. I was all excited, like new experience, a little nervous. And so they did this silent meditation in the basement, and they had the gurus just lined up, like on the shrine, if you will.
Like
and
pictures of them?
Pictures of the gurus, yeah. And I was going through all the pictures, and I'm like, okay, I know Babaji, I know Yogananda, I know Sri Yukteswar, I know Lahiri Mahasaya, and Jesus, of course I know, because I had read the book and like they had briefly gone over it. And then there's this picture of this one person that looks like a woman or something. I don't know. I couldn't really tell. And I'm looking at this picture, and I couldn't stop looking at this picture. It's this picture of this guru, and I'm not really sure like if it's a woman or a man or what it is, but I'm just looking. And so I decided the entire meditation to just look at this picture. Turns out it was Krishna, which at the time I wasn't really aware of Krishna, but that was kind of a side note. When I found that temple, a woman that night suggested that I do the SRF take-home lessons. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Like, what are the SRF take-home lessons? And she explained it to me. And she was kind of like a spiritual guide for me, because she had this total calming demeanor. You know how I said my religion teacher wasn't about what she was telling me?
Yeah.
This woman was about what she was telling me. Like,
you just knew.
Oh,
you could feel it.
She was so calm, very like her. I don't know if much about auras, but you can tell when somebody's energy is all over the place versus when somebody's energy is just very settled and focused and just loving. And
yeah, the best example I have, if anyone wants to go back and listen to another podcast, it's Asha Nayaswami. She, I don't remember who she studied under, but she studied under like one of Paramahansa's direct gurus.
Oh, really?
I'm trying to remember. It was like he started Ananda, the Ananda Society.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about him.
I don't remember his name though.
No, I don't either.
Let me see. Who started Ananda? Still in the market for a Google searcher if anyone out there listening and wants to help
Jamie,
me out.
Are you free?
Yeah, where's Jamie? I need my own Jamie. That's like at the top of my list, but still haven't found one. So guys, hook me up with a Jamie. Odyssey number 89. Asha Nayaswami. Oh no, I lied. Let me find it. When was Asha? She that long ago? 88. Asha Nayaswami. Odyssey number 88, if anyone's interesting. Yeah, so she studied under a guy who knew Paramahansa. And so she was like once removed, if you will.
Yep.
It's interesting, though, her story. She was 19 as well whenever she met her guru, and like she just knew. She was like, oh, this is the guy. But even just sitting with her, like her voice, just her demeanor is everything that you're discussing right here. It was just so calm, so present, so just loving.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's what this woman was to me.
Okay.
And when she suggested, take these lessons, I'm like, yes, because I want what you have. You have this demeanor of peace, and I'm going to take your advice. So I went home, I researched. It's probably a day of research. And I'm like, yeah, I'm buying these lessons. And so that was my start of the SRF lessons. And I loved every second of reading them. I loved reading them. I loved the practices. I loved every second of it, because keep in mind, I had given up, not given up. I had stopped hanging out with all my friends, stopped partying, I used to go to the gym all the time. I stopped going to the gym, and I just kind of stopped everything. And I wanted answers, because when you have a lot around you, it's hard to know who you are. You know, if you remove everything around you and you kind of just spend time by yourself, you get to know who you are. And that's what I needed. I needed some time alone. So every weekend I just go lock myself in my room and just study and just read books and read the lessons. And every day I was doing the meditations. It worked up to the point where I was doing an hour and a half in the morning and an hour at night consistently. And then usually once a week, I tried to do a really long meditation for like 3 hours. Every week wasn't 3 hours. 3 hours was probably my longest, but on like a Sunday, I tried to do like a 3-hour meditation to just see, you know, can I stay in this place with my eyes closed? And, you know, yeah. So it was a challenge.
3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the longest one I ever did was 3 hours. And, you know, looking back, that's my reaction. 3 hours. That's crazy. Like that's insane. I don't do that now, but it gave me the perspective I needed. I needed to get to know myself. What do I care about? What do I not care about? What do I want to know about? What do I not want to know about? And what I realized is I want truth in my life. I want enlightenment. I want to find my guru. And so the best way I knew how to do all three of those things was to just meditate as much as I could and read these lessons and stay true to the lineage of gurus and just be devoted, extremely devoted with everything that I could give at the time. And that's what I did. And, you know, I still didn't know what I was supposed to do with my life on the external world, like in the physical world. Like I was working on this health and wellness application. I thought that's what my purpose was. My friend of mine was like, hey, like,
as in like a cell phone app kind of thing?
Yeah, cell phone app. Yeah. And so
you said application, and I think
I'd be yeah. So
you're applying for health and wellness.
So an app like you find in the app store. And so I was working on it with a friend, but I told him, I'm like, listen, meditation comes before all of this for me. Like my meditation is the most important thing in my life, but I will work on this app with everything I have other than, you know, as long as it doesn't interfere with my meditations.
Yeah.
And so I think one night I just kind of hit another breaking point where I was just like, when you're on the path of like, on this path, you want a degree of certainty. You want answers. Like you want to know, am I doing the right thing? And it's hard to know when you're on your own. It's hard to know when, you know, you don't have Sri Yukteswar there with you saying, yeah, this is the right choice. Or Yogananda appearing astrally right in front of you, or like materializing physically in front of you saying, yeah, you're doing good. And so one night I was just having a tough night. Like I was about to sit for meditation. I'm like, am I really going to sit for another meditation? I've done this every single day for the past, you know, year plus or more than that. And I'm just like, you know, what's different today? Am I even doing the right thing? Like everybody around me is going on to get jobs and, you know, going to get married. They all have relationships and I'm doing nothing. So I had this moment of weakness and doubt. And then I just kind of shook it. I'm like, you know what?
Well, real quick, let's jump into that just before we get further, because this is kind of what's tripped me up. And this goes back to that story we were talking about where, okay, hold on to that thought. But the story is, and I have to repeat it just so people know.
Yeah.
Which is like God called forth, you know, one of his, let's say, avatars and sent them down to earth and said, hey, your mission is to find people that are truly devoted to me and bring them back to me. And so this avatar said, okay, he goes down on earth, he materializes, and he comes across a yogi who's meditating in the woods. And so the avatar's thinking to himself, oh, well, surely this is a guy worthy of God. So he goes up to the yogi, he talked to him. The yogi starts saying how he's been doing all the right things. He's been meditating for the last 80 years. He's been doing everything right. And so the avatar's like, okay, this is like probably a guy to bring back to the God. He keeps going on his journey. And he comes across a guy who's like a drunk or somebody who's just like not having the best time in life. The story I heard is that he's trying to put a piece of wood in the ground for like fencing and just can't get it to go. And so he's like kind of, I don't want to say cursing God, but like in the energy of like, God, what's going on? Why won't you help me out? Da 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 da. And the avatar kind of like observes this, and he's like, okay, this guy probably isn't the one. And so the avatar then returns to God and is like, hey, so in my mission I came across these two people. The first one was this yogi in the woods, and God's kind of like, oh, I don't really know who that is, like, you know, blah blah blah. And then he tells him about the drunkard, and he's like, oh yeah, I know all about him. And the avatar's just like, what do you mean you know about him but not the yogi? And he's like, all right, here, I'll give you a test so that you understand. He goes, go up to the yogi, go up to both of them, and tell them that I am currently busy fitting elephants through the pinhole of a needle. And tell them that once I finish doing that, I'll come to them. And the avatar is kind of confused, so he goes back down and he tells the yogi, he's like, yeah, God's currently busy trying to push elephants through the pin of a needle or the hole of a needle. And the yogi gets all upset. He's like, this is bullshit. I've wasted 80 years of my life. This is so ridiculous. I'm never doing this again. And storms off in a rage. And the avatar's like, whoa, like that was crazy. I didn't expect that to happen. He goes to the drunk guy and tells him the same thing. And the drunk guy just elates with joy. He's like, God can do anything. He created all of this. So he's going to be here in an instant. And so then they just instantly burst out in this joyous rage, if you will, and just start dancing and with love and compassion. And the next thing you know, God joins them in the dance. And so to bring this back to like, you know, this energy that we're talking about, where you're like having this, it's almost questioning, but it's like this energy of, it's like so much compassion that you are like, dude, I'm doing it. Like, I know this is the path. I know I'm on it, but like, where are you? Like, almost like a fulfill your side of the bargain, like lovingly demanding the presence of it. And so, you know, it's almost not doubt. It also reminds me of the story of Job in the thing. We don't have to go through a whole nother story. If people want to listen to that, they go check that out. But it's like I'm committed to you. I'm devoted. I'm spending all of this time doing it, and I know that I'm on my path. Like, where are you? Like, show on your side of the bargain. So it's almost not doubt, but it's like this like loving. The best I've heard, Paramahansa says, it's like lovingly demanding. It's like lovingly demanding that God comes in on, or bliss comes in on their side of the thing. Like, hey, I'm doing it. Like,
right.
Where am I coming up short?
Right. So just to give, I love that story, by the way. Probably whenever I hear a story like that, it's just instant, like just sad, like happiness on the inside, because it's so true. And what most people don't realize is how important bhakti is, or just like loving devotion is. So when I was doing all these practices, I won't lie, obviously I wanted an outcome. Like, I wanted to see my guru. I wanted the gurus to come to me. I wanted to see God. But I was fully committed to going my whole life before that happened. I was fully committed in my mind saying, I will go my entire life doing this if that's what it takes. I was in that, like, whether or not I would have done it or not, I don't know. But in those years, that was my mindset. I'm like, I will do this as long as it takes in order to find God, because I wanted that more than anything. I wanted answers. And so, you know, that one night of doubt I had was almost like I could have become that 80-year-old yogi that night and just given up. I could have been that guy practicing, you know, for 80 years and just being like, you know what, I'm done. You're not coming to me. This is it. But no, I feel like you have to be a mix of the drunkard and the yogi. You have to do your practices, but you also have to do them lovingly and devotingly and not expecting anything in return, type of thing. And so as much as you want that return, you can't let that part of your mind win, because God's watching everything at every moment, right? Nature's watching you. She knows when to guide you, when not to guide you, where to put you, where not to put you. And so thankfully, that night I overcame those thoughts, and I actually went out into nature. I went out into, it was a cold winter night, and I'm just like, it's a full moon. I'm like, I'm just going to stare at this moon until something happens, right? And then somehow my eyes end up closed. And it was funny because I was trying to visualize Babaji's face on the moon,
Whoa.
at first. Like, Babaji was my choice that night of guru to pray to. And so then I found my eyes closed, and that's when he came to me. Just like that. And I had been praying for a purpose in life. I had been longing for some meaning because I could do the meditations. That I can do very well. I can enjoy meditation far beyond most people around me because closing your eyes is easy. It's going about daily life in the physical world that's the really hard part. So I wanted something to do in that physical world. I wanted to do good. And so that's when he spoke to me and he said, son, I have a plan for you. I've heard your plans. I've heard your prayers, and you have a mission. There's a purpose for you. And that's when he explained the social media app and so on and so forth. And I connected with him more than just that night, but essentially he guided me to India. And he said that, I was to go to India and meet with this person who I'd never met before in real life. So just to give a little context, he had told me I was going to create this social media app. I'm like, okay, I don't really know how I'm going to do this. He's like, don't worry. Everything's going to happen. Everything's going to come together. You're with me now. I'm guiding you. You're like, pretty much let your fears and your uncertainties melt away. And obviously that's a huge relief for me because everything I had been longing for at that point was pretty much answered. That's all I really wanted. And I did want enlightenment as well. If he had given me eternal bliss in that moment, I wouldn't have been upset. But in that moment, him giving me a purpose and answering my prayers, that was eternal bliss to me. That seriously was just such a relief. And so I have this new vigor now. I'm going about life. I'm like, okay, we're doing this health and wellness platform. It's going to turn into a social media platform. I was already working on this app, and ironically, like my inner eye knew that I was going to be doing something with an app. And so it's just going to be a social media. I'm like, all right, let's do this. And so I have this new vigor. I'm still doing my meditations, and I think I worked my butt off for like a year trying to get this app off the ground. I'm not a software engineer. I'm not a computer developer. I don't know anything computer science. I took a class or two in high school, but I wasn't the developer. I understood the business of apps. I understood how it worked. I had researched it enough, and I knew what a good interface looked like, a good user experience, but we needed to find someone to develop this application. And trying to find that developer or how to develop it was pretty much the biggest challenge I had ever faced at that point, aside from my meditation and prayer. And so we struggled on and off. My buddy and I, who were working together on this, we struggled on and off for a year, maybe more. And that's when I finally was like, all right, Babaji, what's the deal here? Like,
so this is a year after you saw him?
About a year, yeah,
okay.
Somewhere around that timeline. And so it was sometime later. I can't give exact timelines, but it was sometime after that. It felt like it was probably at least a year. And I'm like, what's the word here? Like, something's got to give, because you gave me this task. You said everything was going to line up, but things don't seem to be lining up. And so the communication he gave me was, you have to go to India. So I connected again with him in the astral layer. He said, it's time. You have to go to India. And in my mind, since like many years prior to that, I had wanted to go to India desperately. But I told myself, I can't go to India until I finish the app. I got to finish the app before I go to India. But ironically, now he's telling me the only way to finish the app is if you go to India. And so it's just this crazy full circle of events. And so I'm like, okay. And so I'm scrolling social media one day before I'm going to leave for India, and before I have any set plans on when I'm exactly going to India. And I come across this man, and it's almost like I instantly recognized him. I'm like, oh my gosh, who is this person? I feel like I know I feel like I know this person. I do know this person, and it's Krishna. That's all that came to my mind. I looked at this photo of this man. I'm like, this is Krishna. So instantly I made a connection. And so, and again, my experience of Krishna at this point is very minimal. It's whatever the SRF, YSS talks about Krishna,
And
which
they
is
don't
very minimal.
Yeah, they really don't.
Extremely
put much in
minimal.
there.
And then again, I told that little story earlier on in this story about how I sat down and looked at Krishna that one time, that my first night in the SRF temple, and just stared at that picture of Krishna. That was my only other experience with Krishna. That's all I really knew about him. But from that, just staring at that photo and having the little SRF altar in my home, I was able to recognize that this man's Krishna. And so I connected with him, spoke with him on the phone, and I'm explaining to him how I'm creating this application and, you know, how it's going to help change the world. It's going to be health and wellness and based social media. And I'm like, if people are eating right and they do this, then they're going to reach enlightenment. The world's going to be a happier, better place. He's like, yes, dear. He says, but love is the ultimate. And I'm like, whoa, okay. And then I continued on. I'm explaining, I'm like, yeah, love's the ultimate, but, you know, if we get people eating right, then they can experience this and their life will change, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yes, dear, but love is the ultimate. Love is the ultimate. And then I'm like, okay, I really got to listen to what he's saying, because I got this, again, this chilling feeling like my inner eye was opening to what he was saying. Like my inner guidance was there for it. And he's just saying, love is the ultimate. And so I just started listening, and I realized in that moment when he said it for like the second or third time, that love is the ultimate, I'm like, there's a deep wisdom in this man that is so far beyond what I know. And I just need to stop talking and listen. And I remember I was on the phone, I put it on speaker, and I bowed to the phone in that moment. And because I'm communicating with him through WhatsApp, and he's in India. Of course, of all places, this man's in India, where Babaji told me I was supposed to be going. Right. And I connected with this random person on the internet, just randomly scrolling through the internet. Like, so
looking back, it doesn't seem so random.
Yeah, no, definitely not. It's all divine guidance, but in the moment, it's just, it happens one step
You're
after
like,
the other.
what?
You're like, what's going on? And so I had that conversation with him. He says, well, whenever you come to India, come see me. And I said, okay. And so I connected with Babaji again. He said, maybe it was before I left that I connected with Babaji again. Either way, at some point I connect with Babaji again. I've already got my tickets now. I'm ready to go to India.
So real quick before you get to India, when you're saying you're connecting with Babaji, are you at a point now where you can just drop into meditation and instantly talk to him, or what's happening here?
With any great guru, they choose when they want to speak to you. So I can go and knock at the door, but the only time they'll answer is when they know they need to answer. But I'm internally at a point, even with the physical guru, you can go and speak to your guru physically, if they're embodied. They will not necessarily answer your questions. They know when to answer and when not to answer. And they'll even take you through a loop. They'll just say the same thing over and over again to you.
Like love is the ultimate.
Like love is the but that's a different type of loop. But if they know you're asking questions you already know the answers to, and that you just haven't accepted that answer in your own self, they'll just loop you around and not really give you a solid answer.
Okay.
They'll just loop you around, because they know, like a true guru knows you need to figure this out for yourself. They're not going to be like, oh, here's the answer on a silver platter. No, you got to work for that answer. And internally,
and trust yourself and understand that you know it.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's not empowerment.
Yes. A true guru guides you to your own inner guru all the time. They're always redirecting you in every single, whenever they get the chance to redirect you to your own internal guru, they do it. And that's how you know it's a true guru. If someone is like, you can't get anything done without me, that's not a true guru.
Right.
That's not a real guru.
Right.
So
it's a energy vampire.
Yes, exactly. If they're saying in this moment you need me, that's different. But if they're saying you can't get anything done ever without me, you need to come to me for every single little thing, to me that's not toxic. A true guru. Yeah.
It's toxic.
Yeah. And so that's how I would connect with Babaji. I'd sit, I would do my normal meditations, and sometimes I wouldn't even be asking to see him. Sometimes I'd just be doing my meditations, and he would come in and begin communicating with me. And so
now, do you always see him, or is it sometimes just his voice?
Sometimes it's just the voice. That first time astrally, I completely saw him fully. He revealed himself. But yeah, sometimes it's just a voice. It's his guidance, and he doesn't always have to come in the same form. He can come in whatever forms. People will see his photo on the internet and be like, that's Babaji, you know? I told this story on my YouTube channel of how Babaji and my guru were meeting in the physical layer. Babaji took form, but he took form in an old man's body, or in a different man's body, not in his normal, what people depict him as body. And so he's an immortal, so he materialized into, you know, whatever body he wanted to, right? And so him and my guru are having a physical meeting, and a reporter comes along, and he knew my guru. The reporter, like the news reporter, knew my guru, and he was just like, you know, who's your friend here, pretty much. He's like, oh, this is just my friend so-and-so. And this man, this news reporter, met Babaji, not knowing it was Babaji.
But didn't even know.
Didn't even know. So you could have met Babaji in your life and just not know that. I mean, how many times that song, you know, what if God was one of us, just a stranger on a bus, you know? How many times have you gone out into the world and seen God and not even known?
Yeah.
So when
it reminds me of, there's a quote that this reminds me of. I read it in one of the SRF lessons, which was, a pickpocketer could meet an enlightened master and he would only see pockets.
Precisely. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only reason that I mean, rationally, if I'm to think about why I'm able to communicate, was just because of my devotion and my practice. And that's not like saying I'm better than anybody else. Anybody can do what I've done. Anybody can. It just takes the right mindset. It takes the right
effort.
Karmas too. Your karmas play a huge role in all of this. And so,
but break that down.
I mean, there's no way all the spiritual work that I've done in this life is, I mean, there's no way the accomplishments that I've attained to in this life is just a result of this life alone. When I saw my guru for the first time through that picture, who technically was a stranger, I recognized him immediately.
Right.
And for me to recognize him immediately, it means I've done so many previous lives of work and so many karmas that I've accumulated of just doing not just good, but like doing according to what my guru guided me to do. I didn't just come into this life thinking, oh, I want to meet my guru randomly. No, it's a previous life experience. I knew that I wanted this because of my previous life experiences. So I'd been with my guru, and I talked to him about this many lifetimes, millions and millions of lifetimes prior to this one.
Jeez, there's that many?
Oh, of course.
You think so? You know so.
Eternal.
Sounds like you know so.
Life's eternal. Energy is not created nor destroyed, right?
Millions.
But think about the timeline of existence.
I mean, according to our current understanding, right, the Big Bang was, according to modern science, it was like 15 billion years ago. But I think like India states it, or the the Vedas say that it's like hundreds of trillions of years ago.
Yeah. So I'm my knowledge on the Big Bang is not so great. Is that Big Bang the entire cosmos, or is it just our
It's the entire
solar
universe.
system?
It's the entire universe.
Okay. Yeah. So my knowledge is not perfect there. But either way, I mean, the universe is so old.
But what's interesting about this is that it was like, it's not going to be perfect. I'm going to use rough estimates here, guys. So wait.
And time's relative, by the way. So our time passing in this universe is completely different than time passing in, let's say, another universe. So 1,000,000 years and 1,000,000 lifetimes here could be one day in another universe.
Well, what also gets trippy about this is 1 year is measured based off of how long the Earth takes to go around the sun.
Right.
So like we're attaching, and this is where it gets really difficult, is we're attaching time to space. Like we're saying like, okay, we're measuring time against space.
Yeah.
Which really isn't even it doesn't even do justice to the whole phenomena that we're experiencing. So you can argue that, what can you argue? You can argue a bunch of stuff, I'm sure. I'm not even going to...
Let's just argue.
Yeah. I want to look up Big Bang becomes older or something like that. I need a Jamie. Guys, shout out to someone who wants to become a Jamie in Pittsburgh, PA. Um, universe is 2 times older than we initially thought. This is, July 16th, 2023. So before I read this, what's interesting is that, so I think it was like 13 billion years old, and then is what like modern Western science thought it was.
Way older than that.
Well, so
way older.
I read something in the Vedas where they were trying to describe the age of it, and like they had to start making up new words for it because like we have trillion, quadrillion, but then they were even going bigger. So it's like something to the magnitude of trillion years old. And I was like, this is kind of insane.
Well, at that point, there's no beginning and no end.
Right?
There is no beginning and no end.
It's so impossible for our mind to comprehend.
I think there's only the present moment. That's it. Because everything's relative. Everything.
Yeah.
The only like it's all relative. So there's no way we can attach a number. But if we were to I meant specifically on this planet, by the way. Millions of years with my guru on this planet.
Okay.
From this planet, not from
millions of lifetimes on Earth.
Maybe not lifetimes, but years at least. I don't know. The way he described it to me, I think he said millions of years on this planet. But that's just this planet, and that's not including other universes I've been with him, other planets, other solar system, other galaxies.
Oh, jeez.
So
all right, yeah. No, we can sit on this for a little bit because this brings in another. Well, here, real quick, I want to just say the article that I'm reading, universe is 2 times older than we initially thought. Big Bang occurred. Wow, that's hilarious. They say this with so much certainty. Big Bang occurred 26.7 billion years ago.
Yeah.
That's hilarious that we find out it's 2 times years older, and we're like, no. Now we know.
Yeah, no.
Now we know it's 26
that's how modern
billion years.
Scientists are. They'll say for
That's so
certainty
wild.
until some new evidence comes out and they change their mind completely.
Okay, no. Now we're certain.
Yeah.
No. Now we're certain.
Yeah.
But so here's where it's going to get a little trippy. I don't have any scientific evidence for this. I would be interested to hear your thoughts. So our current understanding is that modern humans evolved over the course of like 2 million years. Something like that, roughly 2 million years. Now,
I feel like that's more accepted in the West, by the way.
Yes.
Because if you look at Vedic knowledge, they speak way beyond that. Way beyond that. Like deep in Hindu cult, the Hindu texts, they don't talk like that. They go far beyond that. So. I believe so.
I'm interested to hear what you say, but let me.
Yeah.
So again, and this is where when we were talking earlier, we were talking about like Bhagavad Gita and like a war and how I haven't like really read it. So, and I think a portion of me not reading it is so that this like validates for me that I'm like on the right path. This like understanding the knowing. I feel like that was a weird side tangent there. Let me get back to what I was thinking. So I love going to museums. And one of the ones we have here is like a natural history museum, which has like dinosaurs, prehistoric ages, stuff like that. Now, taking the mindset of, modern science saying, whether it's true or not, modern science saying that it took us 2 million years for our brains to evolve, right? I took that idea and looked at the scope in which dinosaurs walked on Earth. And what they do is they have a plus or minus. So like this dinosaur lived plus or minus like between 300 million and 500 million years ago. So there's a plus or minus of 2 million years where they're not 100% sure. And then where my mind comes in is like, we're just going to act as if there was never any intelligent being, let's say like on the level of humans that existed in the hundreds of millions of years that dinosaurs were on Earth. Like to me, I was like, okay, there had to have been some sort of like, let's say Homo sapien but see, this then gets into the trouble of like, what is intelligence? How do you define intelligence? But like, let's say externally communicating organisms that had to have been on Earth, in my opinion. I mean, I have no physical evidence for this, but to me, I'm like, there had to have been something during the age of the dinosaurs that like would have been at the level of articulation the level of consciousness, there it is, that's the right word, level of consciousness that humans are at.
Yeah.
So does the Vedas say anything about that?
I mean, I'm not a professional in the Vedas or by any means, but I do know that they date back humanity so far beyond what modern science would. And if you take a look at modern science's
Real quick, what's like a ballpark?
I wouldn't be able to tell you because I don't want to misconstrue.
So what should I look up? The Vedas, beginning of humanity?
I mean, it's millions and millions of years, probably if not billions. I don't know.
Go ahead. You were gonna start going on to something. I'll cut you off if I can find something on this.
So, yeah, no, just I think at this point we know that modern science is not as accurate as we kind of hoped for it to be, and I think personally that they just don't tell the full truth about the history of this planet. And
you think they know?
Oh, of course. I mean, there's plenty of evidence for them to know. But not everybody knows. But the people in power, the leaders, they know the history of this planet. They absolutely know the history of this planet. And they know that it wasn't 10,000 years ago that we were just roaming as cavemen. They know that for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, guys. I'm still putting effort in here to searching.
What are you trying to find? When the first humans were?
Like what? Yeah, the idea of like how old civilization is according to like the Vedas.
Right.
But maybe it's not the Vedas that I should even be looking at.
I think that humanity just came in before what they're saying, and that's enough to know.
Yeah, I guess the actual number isn't too important.
Yeah. Because there's a history. The reason why it's important to know that it's before what they say there is because there's a history here of hidden technologies and hidden sciences. Like people look at a lot of the Eastern sciences as nonsense, like these texts as nonsense. It's not nonsense. There's actually a deep knowledge there of astrology and all of these things, and the yogis were far more accurate than these modern scientists are for a lot of regards. But now modern science is finally catching up. Even the SRF talks about how modern science is finally realizing what the yogis said thousands of years ago, by the way.
Yeah.
These aren't like modern yogis saying these things. These are yogis from like 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago saying these things. My timeline could be a little bit off, but it's a while ago that they were saying these things and making these observations. And now modern science is like, oh yeah, the whole universe is vibration. Everything is vibration. It's like, well, yeah, they knew this way long ago. The pyramids are a perfect example.
Yeah.
How they built them, how they were aligned perfectly with, the constellations and so on and so forth. That takes an insane knowledge.
Yeah.
Incredible knowledge to be able to do these things. And we still don't know the full potential and we technically don't know what these pyramids are and how they work and their true purpose on this planet and why they were built.
Have you ever read Law of One? Have you ever heard of the Law of One?
No.
Oh, it's this. Let me see if I can find some of the good stuff. So the Law of One is like this channeled text, and what they did was they channeled Ra, who is the god of the sun in Egyptian mythology. But you can argue that Ra, if you want to take this down to an energetic level of like Ra, like the word, the vibration Ra, it's like Ram. So it's that essence, that baseline vibratory energy that is everything, if you will. So it's not
like Om?
Close to Om. Yeah, it's similar, like at that level. Does that make sense? But it's more of like the masculine nature, I believe. But they ask them, so it's like this. I wish I could do a better job of describing it, because it gets to a point where it's just words don't encapsulate what it is. But it's some sort of like, it's almost like the god of mythology, of Egyptian mythology, but it's like a step down from God, if that makes sense. So, but what's interesting, and I want to see if I can find it. What they say, though, is that the pyramid was used. This is why I really needed Jamie. The pyramids were used as like energy centers to like heal the physical body. and they talk about how they like instantly manifested them, where they're just like thought forms. That's what I should type in, thought form.
Right. Who's they though? They say
Ra, like this celestial body.
right. In like who was like alive as a king many, many thousands of years ago, right? Like when did Ra say this, or like when?
This channeling was in 1981.
Oh, oh, it was a channeling. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
it wasn't. Let me see. It's thought form. So the question is like, was the pyramid then built by the mutual action of many of your people? Ra, I am Ra. The pyramids which we thought/built were constructed from thought forms created by our social memory complex. Questioner, then the rock was created by thought in place rather than moved from somewhere else. Is that correct? Ra, I am Ra. We built with everlasting rock the Great Pyramid, as you call it. Other of the pyramids were built with stone moved from one place to another. Questioner, what is everlasting rock? Ra, I am Ra. If you can understand the concept of thought forms, you will realize that the thought form is more regular in its distortion than the energy fields created by the materials in the rock, which has been created through thought form. From thought to finite energy, a beingness in your, shall we say, distorted reflection of the level of the thought form. May we answer you in any more helpful way? Questioner, this is slightly trivial, but I was wondering why, in that case, the pyramid was made of many blocks rather than the whole thing being created at once. Ra, I am Ra. There is a law which we believe to be one of the more significant primal distortions of the law of one. That is the law of confusion. You have called this the law of free will. We wish to make a healing machine or time-space ratio complex, which was an highly effective as possible. However, we did not desire to allow the mystery to be penetrated by the peoples in such a way that we became worshipped as builders of the miraculous pyramids. Thus, it appears to be made, not thought. Questioner, well, then you speak of the pyramid, especially the Great Pyramid, I assume, as primarily a healing machine, and also spoke of it as a device for initiation. Are these one and the same concepts? Ra, they are part of one complex of love, light, intent sharing. To use the healing aspects properly, it was important to have a purified and dedicated channel or energizer for the love/light of the infinite creator to flow through. Thus, the initiatory method was necessary to prepare the mind, the body, and the spirit for service in the creator's work. The two are integral. And then it goes on to talk about the shape of the pyramid, you know, the importance of it, the geometries of it. And this also goes back to why I have that pyramid upstairs.
Right. Because
it has the same ratios as the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Right. But we know there's an intense amount of science that went into this. And they were built how long ago? How long were the pyramids of Giza built? Long time ago, right?
Bro, probably longer than our modern science.
Right.
I could tell you what modern science says, but it's probably even longer.
Yeah. So our modern science would not be in agreement with 99% of what you just said, pretty much.
Oh, like, probably not at all.
Yeah.
There's probably people that are just like, no, there's no way that's possible.
Yeah, exactly. So,
which is interesting because everything starts from thought, which is like everything you see in this room, right? This table, this laptop, those lights, those cameras, this microphone.
Yeah.
It all was a thought at one point in time. There was nothing that was created that was never a thought. And so it would make sense, maybe not to our Western logical mind, but it would make sense that you could purify a thought so well that it could just instantaneously manifest.
Yeah, of course. I mean, thoughts create the world around you. That's it. My guru told me once, he said that if you want to change the world, the only way you can change the world is through your thoughts. That's it. That's the only way. So, yeah. That's why you have to focus on your thoughts. That's why it's important to focus on your thoughts. That's why I went through that whole phase of getting everybody else's thoughts out of my head and kind of just focusing on my own thoughts. But to go back to the whole, pyramid Giza, the pyramid thing, the higher up people know about this. They really know what it does, how it works, and how to harvest the energy from there, when to. There's this quote, I forget who it's by, but it's, millionaires don't practice astrology, billionaires do. So the people who are high up, they know the importance of, these otherwise known as wacky sciences that aren't proven or anything. No, they're real. They're very much real. Our knowledge of them is just so limited, and it's been suppressed. So they don't want us to have that knowledge, because if we do have that knowledge, then we become as powerful as they are.
Do you think that there are, because there has to be, as much as I feel like there's a lot of energy, let's say, or thought that goes into, oh, they know and don't tell us. Like, there's evil ones. I'm sure there are. There has to be good ones as well. So why aren't they sharing the information?
We're here now, aren't we? I'm telling you about Babaji, yeah?
Yeah.
And how my guru is here, and he's working to prevent nuclear war and to save this planet.
You haven't talked to us about nuclear war yet.
Well, oh, right. So in my video, I mentioned it, right?
Okay.
So that's why Babaji's here. That's why my guru Krishna's here. That's why. The whole reason they've taken birth, or not taken birth, Babaji, that's a whole nother story. He's an immortal. But my guru's taken birth in human form. And the whole reason why he's taken birth in human form and why I've joined him is because we're here to create peace on this planet, to stop nuclear war, to prevent these governments that are seemingly possessed with evil from doing these things and harming innocent people. And that's Babaji's plan for this planet. That's why it was so easy to join his mission, is because he's here to protect Mother Nature. And what, in my mind, when I was, told these things, when my guru was explaining these things to me, it's like, of course, like, there's nothing else I'd rather do with my life than to, protect the innocent people of this planet and to protect the planet itself, because nature's the giver of life. She gave me this physical form. She gave me the people that I love around me. She gives me the food that I consume on a daily basis. She gives me sun rays, everything that I need to enjoy this experience. She's given me. So yeah, absolutely, I can work to protect her. And so, yeah, the current governments are in a way possessed. Just the leaders. It's not the innocent people that are deciding these things, like, let's go and create this nuclear war. No, it's the leaders that are deciding these things, and they're seemingly possessed with evil because it seems like they want blood. They want bad things to happen.
But see, even pulling it apart, right? If we're talking about world leaders, is it every single one? But there feels like there has to be some good actors in the mix.
Some are there, but where are they speaking out?
Well, I guess
who are the ones that are speaking out? You name me one top world leader that's willing to tell the truth about everything. Really explain the truth.
The closest I've said, and I have a feeling I'm going to get some backlash because I've never publicly said this on my podcast, but I feel like at the best of it would be Donald Trump.
Right. He said a lot of things, but is he willing to commit and say, listen, we need to protect nature? We need to stop all of this nonsense?
He hasn't come forth and said that directly.
Well,
but now here could be my bias coming in, is that I feel like I've seen that, though, in the things that he has said, but he hasn't said it directly. So it might be biased.
It's important.
I'm probably biased.
Right now, I'm saying we have to protect Mother Nature. It's important. We need to literally restructure society. Like the ideas that Babaji has implemented, right? So the task that he gave to my guru's, when he was 18 years old, he created Mysore in India, a city in Mysore, as a beggar-free city at the age of 18. So I don't know if you know how begging works in India, but usually the mafia sets it up. The mafias, they'll intentionally harm young children, intentionally make women get pregnant and have child after child, so that they'll put them on the streets with 5 children and make them beg for money, and then they'll take that money. They'll, take an eye out of a child, cut a hand of a child off, and make them go beg in the street. So when you see somebody without a hand and they're just a child and they're begging, you're going to give them money, right?
Wow.
And so this happens in many cities in India, in pretty much all the major cities, and it was happening in Mysore. And Babaji tasked my guru Krishna. He said, you need to bring an end to this. As an 18-year-old, this is my guru being tasked with this. He has no political power, no resources to be able to do this, like nothing. And so he's like, okay. And I think he gave him, I forget the timeline. It's in my video. You can go watch it. But
I think it was 6 months.
Yeah,
I watched
6
it before
months.
it came.
There you go, 6 months. And so that's exactly what my guru did. He went out there. He fought the mob off. He rallied the media. He got the government to support this movement, and it became a movement. And that's exactly what happened. Now, when I visited Mysore, there was no beggars in Mysore. It's very minimal if you see them. I went and visited Mumbai. They're everywhere. Granted, Mumbai is a much larger city, but still, they're everywhere in comparison. And it was so bad that the mob was threatening my guru's life. They were saying, like, we're going to kill you. They were calling his mom up saying, like, we're going to kill your son, and so on and so forth. Oh, yeah, it got really bad. And so his mom actually kicked him out. She's like, you need to stop doing these things. They're serious. Like, if you don't stop doing these things, I'm going to kick you out. And she eventually kicked him out. And he had a target on his head, but he said, no, he's never in fear. There's no need for him to fear. There's absolutely no need. I've never seen any look of fear or any sense of fear from him. And it's because he knows why he took birth. He's here to restore Dharma. He's here to create a peaceful planet. And the next task Babaji gave him after that, after creating, giving these beggars homes and education and, food and, the healthcare that they needed, he was given the task of creating this whole terrorist-free environment, if you will. So terrorism happens everywhere. It's happening in India back in, I think it was 2009 or 2013. I forget the exact date. But Babaji tasked him. He said, like, you need to, prevent terrorism in Mysore. And so essentially Babaji is setting up, and Babaji and my guru are working to create Mysore as this model city for the rest of the world to be able to follow, where they're going to have free food, chemical-free food as well, not just free food.
That's
no
important.
Chemicals in the food.
Yeah.
They're going to have free education, because education should never be charged for, and it's going to be proper education. If you want the real knowledge, if you want slaver knowledge, which is what we're taught in the West, where you go to school and you sit down and you read a textbook and you take tests, that's available. But if you want the actual the indigo education, as they call it, the real knowledge about energy work and controlling your emotions, controlling your mind, manifestation, all of these things, that should be free as well. And then the last thing is free healthcare. There's no reason why any company, any society should be able to profit off of your ill-being, right? Healthcare, the medicine should be free. It should absolutely be free. And many people are like, oh, how are you going to be able to pay for all these things? How are you going to be able to afford this stuff? The amount we pay in taxes right now, right? We could significantly reduce all of our taxes and still be able to afford all three of those things. It's the way our government spend the taxes. It's what they're using it for. Exactly. They take it for themselves. They're not using it. Or just
give it to other countries.
Yeah, but eventually it comes back to them.
Yeah, of course.
That the whole plan is for it to come back to them. And so what we need to do is reinvest in our own people. And the easiest way, some of the most simple ways that Babaji and my guru Krishna are working to set this up, and I'm joining them, is to create this model city in Mysore with the free food, with the free education, with the free medication. And once that's seen, and how much peace can come from a situation like that, around the world will change. But the war to get this to happen, the fight to make this happen in Mysore, it's not a small fight. At every moment, the powers that be, the leaders are opposing, trying to get this not to work. like the mob threatening to kill him, all these things, right?
So I think that's probably a thing to dive into, right? He's has taken on some of the biggest, let's say, powers at be, or like getting blasphemed about getting killed, all these different targets, right? And yet he's still able to walk around without any fear, let alone some of us, if you don't have your rent, people are afraid to not make their rent. They're afraid to not, like, certain things won't occur. So how do you get to a place in life where you have no fear?
It's such a great question. And I'll tell you a story that he told me. And so he was told, Babaji told him, you need to set up this TV channel. And in Mysore, I forget again the year. Time just goes by, so I don't know the exact year, but he was told you have to set up a TV channel in Mysore. And so my guru at this time had no money, right? Pretty standard, no money, no way to set up a TV channel. You think, how much do you think it would cost to start a TV channel?
Well, I don't know. I'd probably guess in like if it was in America, probably at least 50 to 100 grand.
Yeah, a decent amount.
Something like
that. At the very least,
yeah.
Right? But then you have to pay for the actual station to be broadcasted.
The space you're recording, the electricity.
Yeah. So it costs a lot of money at the very least, right? You convert that to Indian money, it's even more, right? Because rupees is far less than the US dollar, worth far less. So he was actually speaking with a policeman, I think at the time. I believe his name was Ravi Chananavar or something of the sorts. And he said, Amitabh, so my guru's name in this life is Amitabh. He says, how are you going to be able to afford to do this? Like, how is this even going to be possible? You have no money. How are you going to be able to do this? He said, you see, I'm a child of nature. Okay? I don't have to worry because whatever needs I need, she'll meet them. If you take a look at a tree, he's like, what are the ingredients you need to grow a tree? And so this guy was like, well, you need the chemicals, water, blah, blah, blah. He says, well, what about a forest tree? He says, if you look at a tree in the forest, nobody waters it, nobody puts chemicals down, nobody maintains it, and yet those are the strongest trees growing. And he says, I'm just like that forest tree. Mother Nature, I'm her child. I'm surrendered to her. I respect her. I serve her. And whatever I need, she provides me. So we have to be like that tree in the forest. If we want to walk around worrying, we can do that. If we want to walk around thinking, oh no, this, oh no, that, which we're all guilty of sometimes, don't get me wrong, but you have to train your mind to fight those things off and say, you know what? This is why, again, I emphasize the importance of connecting to nature. You have to realize, if you respect nature, your creator is nature. Your body is made from nature. Everything, every cell came from nature here. Every piece of food that you eat comes from nature. The sun, everything.
Well, the good food.
Yeah, the good food, right? Well, even the bad food comes from her as well. So,
unless it's like the toxins, though, I guess, or stuff they're putting in.
Yeah. The manufacturers change sometimes, but it all comes from nature. So if you show her respect and you respect her and you love her, she'll provide you with whatever you need in life. There's no need for fear. That's the continual thought process you need running through your mind.
So earlier we talked about this, and in the Bible, I kind of just had a tripped out experience right there, because in the Bible we were talking about how Adam was created from like the clay of the earth, and I just typed that in because I wanted to pull up that verse, and I typed man made from clay of earth, and I froze because the name Clayton means clay of the earth. And so I kind of just freaked out there for a second.
Welcome to the to the nature show.
I might need a second.
Divine energies, man.
That rattled me for a sec. I'm still a little rattled. All right, let's see here. Genesis 2, 5-9. I don't know. We don't really need to read this. That just tripped me out. I think the important thing, though, is that it's an interesting parallel, right? Because I don't know if it was the Last Supper, but there was like the last sermon that Jesus held was in a garden, and then we have the garden at Eden. Like, there's a lot of forestry and nature play that even occurs within the Bible itself.
Just do this one thing. You don't even have to refer to any of the sacred texts. All you have to do is go outside and hug a tree. Pray to the tree. Look at the tree. Love the tree. Watch how your energy changes. Go look at not look at the sun, but in the general direction of the light, right?
Maybe keep your eyelids closed.
Or just do it in the safe hours that you can look at the sun, right? And pray. Eyes closed, you can do it. Pray to the sun. Feel the rays touching your skin. That in itself is one of the most satisfying feelings you'll ever experience in your entire life, is if you just sit there and let the rays of the sun touch your skin. It is an amazing sensation, right? And then you start speaking in your mind to the sun. Thank you for this. Thank you for giving life to everything on this planet. Because if you weren't here, this is a problem. Definitely it's a problem, right? If the sun's not here. Right? No food, no nothing, no light, can't go about. Life would come to an end. Why not thank the sun for something like that? Now see, the Native Americans knew this. So many other cultures in history knew this. But nowadays we say, oh, there's only one God, you can't do that.
Well, right. Is that not a pagan idea, though, then, if you're worshiping
Didn't
these
God
different
create
idols?
the sun as well, though? It's all God's creation at the end of the day. I see Mother Nature as the supreme. That's how I experience life. Because without her, if you look into empty space, right, that's all Mother Nature. Is it not nature?
The nothingness.
If you go and look in space and you see the stars and all these things and this, the space in between the stars, the black, right? That's nature as well, is it not?
I don't know.
It's creation, is it not? It's creation.
It's definitely creation.
Right.
Right? And God is the creator.
So people are so hung up on...
But it's interesting to hear you call that nature. I mean, just because mentally I'm like, okay, Earth is nature.
So let's say you take a spaceship to one of these faraway distant planets and you land on one of them and you step out. Is that not nature too?
It's weird. You're...
Planets.
I get what you're saying. I just, in my mind, it would be like, no, nature's on Earth.
Okay, but
like I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm just saying like my mind is like nature,
right,
Earth.
But think about the sun. Is sun not nature?
Well,
we were just talking about the sun, right?
I guess I would say that the sun is helping create nature on Earth. Is helping nature thrive on Earth. I guess in my mind, I wouldn't. I see what you're saying, and I think I'm on board with it. But like, just to speak from where I was thinking, it's like I would say that the sun is supporting nature on Earth. I guess mentally, I wouldn't make the connection that that they're the same.
They're both the same because neither works without the other. It's one closed sphere of operations. Without one, the other doesn't exist. Okay. So it's all the same. It's all the same. All of it is. So if life is like this on one universe, some other planet, it's different. Either way, it's nature at the end of the day. And what's missing is everybody's looking to the sky to pray to God. Everybody's looking up, oh God, please help me, please God, help me. But they won't recognize the God that's beneath their feet.
Do you think there's some sort of parallel here with like heaven and hell? Like hell is perceived below us and heaven's up above?
I think it's just the ideology that there can only be one this, one that, my way's this, the right way's this. Anybody that is willing to do what I just said, go and pray to a tree, go and connect with nature, they don't have to believe anything. They'll experience it for themselves. Because this is my experience in life. I'm not saying, go out and just talk to the sun and talk to trees for no reason, connect with them for no reason. Once you connect with them, knowledge comes to you. if you want to know about what gods you should worship, what gods you shouldn't worship, what religion you should follow, what religion is not meant for you, pray to nature. She'll guide you. She's the right guru for people. If you want to know what is beyond nature, if there is something beyond nature, she'll guide you to that as well. But you first have to make that trusted connection with the guru. And she's the right guru. She's the one we've lost connection with. Once you make that connection with her, she'll show you the path. She'll show you, okay, yes, this is the supreme, this is not the supreme, or you should follow this and not follow that. And everybody's experience with nature can be different. And it probably will be different because everybody's here for a different purpose. But I guarantee you this, she'll give you answers. And she'll bring peace into your life. She'll restore who you are as a person and what you're meant to be doing here as well.
I think it was in The Power of Now. At least I remember after reading The Power of Now, there was a moment where he talked about that, like when you go and look at a tree, but look at it attempting to see every single atom of that tree. And I remember doing that one time, and dude, it was like the most profound peace that had ever come over me. Yeah. I mean, maybe I've had a little bit more profound peace since then, but at the time, I was like, whoa, like you almost start seeing the tree's aura. You start like just,
of course,
realizing there's nothing to do. You start realizing like, I don't have to do anything.
That's knowledge, is it not?
Yeah.
That realization is her giving you knowledge. That's communication with nature right there. That's exactly what I'm talking about. These realizations didn't come up out of thin air. No, it's called communication with nature, divine intelligence.
That's interesting because it's like it feels to me like the ego is the one that wants to be, oh, I realized that. There's nothing to do. That was my thought.
Right, but what's the difference between you and nature? Like I said, you came from the dirt.
That's a good question.
There is no difference.
That's a good question.
So whether the realization, like, there is no I. Forget the I.
It's taking me back to, I'm on board. I'm just saying, like, I'm speaking from the peak of the.
I got you.
It's taking me back to a podcast I did with Rubia Lacerda, Odyssey number 072, where she channeled like the ninth dimensional Arcturian Light Council, some alien galactic federation thing. And I was like asking him questions. And one of the questions I asked was like, are there other intelligent life forms outside of this planet? They're like, yeah, of course. I'm like, okay, yeah.
Otherwise the galactic federation wouldn't exist.
Well, I mean, you know, it's like, that's fair. It's a fair point. Right? And so that led me to, I know it wasn't the best question. It led me to the next question. The next question, which was like, okay, right, how many are there? And they were like, this isn't a question that's able to be answered.
It's infinite.
And I'm like, well, like intelligent life forms like me. And they're like, well, again, this isn't really a question that can be answered. And it kind of got me frustrated. I'm like aliens, you know, like how many are there? It's like, this isn't a question that can be answered. And I'm like, help me understand this. Like, what is it that I'm missing? And they're like, your question around the word intelligence, like all of it is intelligent. It's not like nature's intelligent, the ants are intelligent, you're intelligent, your dog's intelligent. You're just classifying intelligence in one facet. You need to open up your mind that it's all intelligent. And I don't know that they said that exactly, but it was just like, wow. Like it is all intelligence. All of this has an intelligence. This table has the intelligence of being a table. Like, I don't know how to be a table. I have no. I mean,
if you study a table, if you stare at a table all day long, you'll gain that intelligence. You'll become a table. That's how it works.
What if someone listening is like realize their divine purpose is to be a table?
Yeah. All the power to you.
But it was like a very eye-opening point. It's like, what intelligence is it that you're looking for?
Yeah.
What is the intelligence that you need? I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah. So my understanding is that you haven't done much research beyond the life forms that we're told exist, which is the Earth The only planet in all of the universes that exists, right?
I mean, there's an element of like, especially whenever I'm podcasting, to like kind of be more curious, like to kind of more take like a almost cynical approach. I'm aware of like Arcturians, Orions, Pleiadians, and I'm sure, they call it star seeds. Are you familiar with that?
I've heard these terms.
Yeah.
I only know from what I've been told by my gurus. That's it.
Okay.
That's all I know. But
well, to me, it's like, what information serves me at this time? I'm interested to find out, but like, there's a piece of me that's like, how much of this has actually served me in this mission on Earth?
Yeah.
But what have you been told by your gurus?
My guru is an alien. Like an avatar, right, is an alien. It's not a normal life form taking birth. So if you go on Google right now,
okay,
and you type in, or Babaji's considered an alien, right? He's an immortal. Is he a human? Can you say Babaji's a human?
He can take human form, right?
Right, but it's so to say when you take human form insinuates that you're not human to start, right?
But then wouldn't that be that me and you aren't a human either? Like, or we're in a human form.
We're in human form.
But we're more than just humans.
So that alone should prove that, there's life forms beyond humanity, right? But no, this is human. They call this humanoid. When you have this form, it's called humanoid, I think. Again, my knowledge is not super extensive, but
there's we have like a soul, right? That's animating this physical form.
Yes.
But how does that, again, I'm all on board with aliens, but like, how does that prove that there's aliens?
So,
what do you want me to type in?
So go into Google Images.
Okay.
And type in alien in Mysore. Mysore.
Mysore. Images. Aliens found in Mysore.
Just aliens in Mysore. Let me see.
Here, I'll pull it up. Here, I can bring it up over here. This is why we have this.
There's a picture of my guru right there. One of the first photos.
This one?
No, right here.
This one?
That's my guru.
He's got like long hair. He's got sunglasses.
So you can click on that, right? If you go to that article,
nice.
It explains that he's calling out to an alien army.
Okay, someone in Mysore is calling out to an alien army. This is on the newsminute.com. October of 2014. Quote, yes, I am the supremo of the organization. I am
Amitabha.
Only Amitabha, in quotes, I don't have a surname. So only Amitabha, said the man who has been waging a quiet battle to stop the usage of nuclear energy across the world by means of letters and yagyas, inviting a, quote, massive alien military force to Earth. An Imager user posted a photograph of a banner about a Rajasuya
Mahayagya.
Say that 5 times fast. Rajasuya Mahayaga, inviting aliens to Earth. The image has an assortment of images and photographs on it: flying saucers, UFOs, a bird, a woman with a scepter. A scepter shown next to a lion. Sonia Gandhi. Hamita. I'm gonna let you take over those words.
in a corner.
It was in a corner was a mobile phone number.
So it's just describing this right here.
Oh, okay, this image.
So this was the banner.
Okay, it's like in Sanskrit, English.
Yeah. So if you go down, he'll explain a little bit more.
Speaking to the newsman about various, explain the activities involved in. Say that again. Amitabha said, quote, almost all countries have nuclear weapons today. Oh, that's interesting because I only thought it was 3.
Oh, no. They whether they say it or not, they have them.
Almost all countries have nuclear weapons today. Once you use a nuclear weapon, within a fraction of a second, everything will be destroyed. It is not people who have problems. People in India, China, Pakistan are innocent. Their leaders have issues. They can settle these amicably. This was why he said, based on instructions from his guru since 2007, he has been writing letters every month to countries which use nuclear technology, asking them to dismantle it. Quote, if they do not agree, then we tell them that we will force them to do it by creating problems, he says. He says that in order to achieve this, he has been performing
Yagyas.
that his guru taught him annually since 2011. The last one was just completed a few days before he spoke to the News Minute.
Yeah. So
the first one was carried out in Krill. Asked about how he would, quote, forcibly, quote, make these countries go back from the brink of nuclear war, he said, quote, we give them a deadline. If they miss it, we create problems for them. We told America that we would create a financial crisis for them if they didn't meet our deadline. They need money to fund these nuclear programs. But if we create problems for them, how will they fund it? He referred to his guru several times in the conversation. When asked about him, Amitabha said that his guru, Mahavatar Babaji, was an alien from another planet and that he had been carrying out his activities under the guru's, quote, guidance, end quote. He also said that he and his friends had met his guru several times since they were children. Amitabha, I got it this time.
There you go.
said that his guru was from Jupiter and that he is 5,500 years old. Asked which language the guru spoke to him, Amitabha said, without missing a beat, Kannada,
which is the local language of Karnataka, India.
Okay. He said that this thing has a few spelling mistakes here, but we'll push past it. He and his friends had first met the guru when they were studying in a convent school in Mysore. He had been in class 2 when his name was called Arahamarabha Dada. My guru gave me the name Amitabha, meaning eternal light, he said. Quote, there were 9 rishis, we call them rishis, from another planet. He told me to drink a tirtha.
So I'll explain the story. So
okay,
this
so
is
we're good on this?
Yeah. But that
sets
me
the stage.
Explaining of aliens, right?
Okay.
So when you worship Babaji, he is an alien himself, right?
He
so if you're
isn't,
asked,
or he isn't?
is
He is an alien.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, our definition of alien is generally not from this planet. When we say somebody's not from this planet, even if we say someone's from a different country, they're considered an alien, right? And they cross over into your country. But the story he was just about to start telling was of how he came to meet Babaji. So I think he was 6 years old. He was in grade school.
So real quick, Amitabha, is that the same person as Krishna?
Yes.
Who you is your guru?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Amitabha is Krishna. As told to me by my own inner soul and as told to me by Babaji as well. So, so he was going on to explain how his guru, how he first came to meet Babaji on this planet, right? And he was initiated into his life's purpose. He was at school one day. I think he was 6 years old or something. And he was playing outside in the playground with his friends. And Babaji, with his long, long hair all the way down to his feet, and I think he said a group of 8 other rishis or so. Or I forget, 9.
He said 9 in this article.
And so appeared to him and gave him darshan and had him drink holy water. And so that was his initiation into his life's work on this planet. That was his call to action. And from that moment on, he spent his life devoted to this practice of protecting Mother Nature, which included, so you read the word yagya many times. In English, it's just a fire. It converts to the term fire ritual, which is where you sit by a fire and you do mantras and chants and you throw something into the fire. And before throwing it in, you just say swaha. Right? And so essentially you're doing different types of communications. You can communicate with gods, but you're also purifying environments. So I do the yagya as he taught me with a mantra he taught me every 2 weeks on the full moon and the new moon. And I use chilies, which is to purify and get rid of bad energies.
Okay.
As well as communicate with, the higher powers, right? And so, yes, this is part of the practice he was doing. So when he was initiated, when he was 6 years old, I think by the time he was 10, but whatever Babaji was telling him to do, he would follow. And his mom at this point was like losing her mind because her 10-year-old son is doing yagyas, like these fire rituals for like 7 hours a day
Yeah.
for several days in a row, and she doesn't understand. She went on to write a book called My Son and Babaji because
Oh, really?
yeah, because he spent his whole life devoted to Babaji. And there was a point where he had a lot of money inherited from he's a prince. He was born into a royal bloodline, the Chola dynasty.
This is Krishna in this life was
Yes.
born into this?
Yes.
Okay.
So Krishna in a past life was born into a royal bloodline as well.
Okay.
And
right.
so he was born into a royal bloodline in this life, and it's the Chola dynasty. And so naturally his family had money. And so his father had passed at this point. So his family had inherited some real estate, money, and so on and so forth. And Babaji said, you have to sell everything and give it all to nature, all of it. And so he had what accumulated to be like lots of money, even in US standards. It was a lot of money, and all of it he gave to nature.
Like, we're talking billions?
Not billions, no, millions, probably millions.
Millions.
Yeah.
But
Not exorbitant, like tens of millions, but like probably a couple million, which was back then, which was,
well off.
yes.
Didn't ever have to work again.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not.
So then how do you give that to nature?
Through different projects, all of his
Okay.
projects, his yagyas, all these yagyas he performs, they all cost money. Like, nobody's coming out and paying for these yagyas,
Well,
right?
wait, I thought you were saying yagyas is just throwing stuff into fire.
Yeah, but you need to create the fire, right? You need wood, you need fires, you
Okay.
need materials, and the higher the offering, the better. You need to travel, because he goes and does the yagyas in different states, right? He gives back to the needy as well. Like, it's not just the fires, but it's everything. His whole mission in life, he's constructed over 33 temples and churches as well. So he's restored and constructed over 33 temples, one of which I bore witness to when I was in India. We were living in his apartment or whatever, and during this process he was the government was fighting him for his own land. So he had purchased this land, which is known as a god killer spot. It's where Krishna died in his previous life.
Whoa.
And so the government was not fully aware of the significance of this land. There was some confusion around it, but he knew because it was his previous life and he knew where he died. So he
Sure.
purchased the land, and the government fought him endlessly. He had all the documents proving this is my land. He would continually go in. I think it was the chief minister.
But if the government didn't know, then why were they?
Well, they realized once he had the land.
Okay.
Yeah. Once he wanted to start constructing a temple on the land, it became pretty evident the significance of the land. So they fought him. The local people fought him. All the negative energies. And I'm not saying any of these people that were fighting him, I'm not saying the leaders around the world are bad. I'm saying that negative souls enter into their mind and wish to see out their vision and not necessarily the good vision.
Well, hold on. Help me out here. Negative souls enter into their mind.
Yeah.
Are these like ideas or thoughts? Because like I have a soul animating Clayton, right? Are you saying that another soul could animate Clayton at some point in time?
Oh, there's trillions. At any given point, there's millions and billions, if not trillions of souls animating every person, right? We call it as, when they become dominant, we call it as multiple personality disorder, right?
So help me understand this though. Is it like, my parents helped raise me, so a piece of their soul is...
No, it's not like that. It's like the atoms. So if you look at the energies, right? Atoms construct up everything. Okay? Even an atom has a soul.
Does it?
Does it not?
So
what do you think?
I mean, what's a soul? What are we talking about when we're saying the word soul?
So I'm talking about the atoms. I'm talking about the micro energies. So have you ever seen the movie Horton Hears a Who?
I know the general premise, but not.
How about this? There's a more modern one. Quantum Mania.
Yeah.
What's that? Ant-Man, Quantum Mania.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I saw that.
So he's living on Earth. He gets shrunk into a nanoparticle, right? Let's call it a nanoparticle. Not even an atom, smaller than an atom. A nanoparticle, I think, is even smaller. and he's all of a sudden in a completely different world. Completely different world, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's still influencing the earth from his actions in his tiny little place, right? So there's trillions of these little, if you will, souls or people. I don't know how you want to describe it. I described it as souls, and the way it was taught to me was through atoms that are constantly in us, right? So have you ever had a thought that comes into your mind, you're like, that's wild. That doesn't seem like me at all. Like,
yeah. Or they're like
we
really
call them
bad.
intrusive thoughts,
oh,
right?
I don't want to do that.
Right.
Or you get a thought to do something, you're like, that's a terrible thing to do.
Exactly. So who are you talking to when you say that's a terrible thing to do? Who's the one that you're talking to? Whoever gave you that thought, whether you realize it or not, you're replying to whoever suggested that thought, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah.
And so
I get what you're saying there.
Yeah. So we have these souls constantly trying to feed us thoughts, right? Constantly trying to feed us different things, different ideas, different ways to go about life. And that's why it's so hard to find your purpose in life, is because the second you take birth, there's trillions and millions of souls that also want to take control of your body, and they want you to do as they please. They want you to, they have their own desires, and maybe they don't have a full human physical form like you do. So they're trying to get you to do this. They're trying to get you to do that. They're trying to get you to go all over the place. But it's important that you hone in on who you are as a person, receive your training from your guru or from nature, wherever your guru may be, so that you can focus your energies and be like, okay, this thought's not me. This is just the negative energies. So what I was getting at is that these leaders, they're not necessarily bad people, but whatever energies they invite into their mind, like through whether they, maybe they worship Satan or these negative people, or just invite negative energies into their mind, that's the type of things in actions they'll take. So I pray for them that they'll become unpossessed from these energies.
Yeah.
But the current reality is, these souls take over their minds, and these energies come in and they distort their view of reality, and they end up fighting for no reason, for the bad reasons, not for no reason. They fight against the good. And so my guru's trying to get this land, and all of a sudden these negative energies just hoard these people, saying you need to stop them from getting this land, which again, this is like the soul armies, the atom armies. That is a little confusing, but it will make sense.
Level.
Yeah, totally different level. And so they all fled these people, and they try to prevent him. So for years he fought to get into this land, just for his own land, to be able to construct a temple on his own land.
Yeah.
And so finally, when I was in India, he was successful. And I went with him we'd spend hours at like these public officials' offices, just showing them the documents saying, this is my land. And then they're like, no, you need this though. And then no, you need that. And then you need this. So we're going back and forth and trying to get all this stuff situated. And finally, we're able to construct. And so he builds this beautiful temple on this land. And even then the villagers, they're opposing him. I think just a few months before I went, the villagers, he went into the land, and his land, and the villagers, the energies entered them, and they started beating him up, physically harming him. And there's a video of them just beating him up. And then a week later, or not a week later, a few months later, when I actually arrived and I was speaking with him, those same villagers came in and shared tea with us in his home, in my guru's home, and they were like, we're sorry. We don't know what came over us. It is completely unlike us to do such a thing. I don't know what happened.
Wow.
So that's how the energies work. Yes. So that's how the energies work, though.
I don't know what came over me.
Yeah.
Because that's such a common expression.
So here's a good example of the souls entering your mind, inviting in negative energies. Have you ever, maybe not you, but a friend, you've seen a friend who's drank too much alcohol?
Definitely me.
Right.
Yeah.
And they end up blacking out or whatever. Maybe not even blacking out, but they make so many decisions that they normally wouldn't do. And then they wake up the next day and they're like, why did I do all of that? What was I thinking? And the reality was, you lost control of your body.
You literally weren't thinking.
It wasn't your thoughts. It wasn't your
Yeah.
physical body. You made the choice to invite the energy in by doing all that drinking. So you're still responsible. But once you invite that energy in, they take over. And so you can make a whole plethora of terrible decisions and not even realize what you're doing until it's too late. I think alcohol is like the base word of alcohol, and alcohol means like demon.
Really?
So I'm not, again, this is something I've probably seen on TikTok or something,
alcohol's
right?
Alcohol's,
Even though I don't
the
have TikTok,
Spanish.
actually.
Portuguese is alcohol.
Alcuhul, I think.
They spell it a little different.
No, I think is the demon that I'm talking about.
So what is it?
Alcuhul. I could be wrong. I could be wrong about this, but essentially you do invite negative energies when you do stuff like that.
I guess the issue that this comes, right? The spirit that dwells in alcohol, absolute Bible study. Al-Ghul, the A-L-G-O-U-L.
There it is. That's it.
The demon of drugs and alcohol.
There you go.
For demonology experts and for those advanced students of practical occultism, it is no secret that this world is ruled by tremendous demons and infernal entities, which aim to drag every human being into the world of darkness. The world's most dangerous illegal drug is liquor. Al-Ghul is one of them. It's even one of the 10 most dangerous and powerful. In Greek mythology, it was symbolized by the jellyfish that Perseus disheaded and could turn those who looked it in the eye into stone. I thought that was Medusa. Anyhow, a surprising and very decient symbolism is for anyone who has ears and eyes to see and hear. All the souls of this world, by ingesting the substance of alcohol, are under the command of this demon and his legions of demons. So it is so that in the English language, the translation of spirits is spirits.
There you go.
Now we understand why a drunk has only low passions such as sadness, lust, anger, anxiety. Alcohol is isolated other demons. Moreover, he's a close friend of politicians of the world, since they do not know that it is easier to dominate a people of ignorant drunks and drugged drugs. This person isn't doing the best with writing.
Yeah.
Alcohol has some slogans that characterize him in a timely manner. Quote, "The whole planet is mine. I steal all the chrysatic atoms from the people." That's interesting. They say atoms. "Corruptions and misfortunes are my daughters."
What type of atom?
Christic.
Christic.
Christic atoms. Let me search that.
C-H or C?
C-R. Christic.
It might mean the good atoms that people have.
Christic atoms.
It might mean like the positive thinking, loving, accomplishable ones. That's just a guess, but
maybe. Let's see here. What was it say? I steal all the Christic atoms. What are Christic atoms? Crystal. A crystal is a solid. That's what's popping up here.
yeah.
Wonder if Christic is like the purified structure. Of
yeah,
people.
I'm assuming that's what
That's
they
what
mean.
that feels
like. The good things about a human being is what he steals. Is pretty much what he's saying.
I typed in crystal atoms. It says, "Do you mean crystal atoms?"
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like that pure,
Yes.
like a
It
line.
steals the pureness of humans, which makes sense if you've ever seen anybody that drinks too much.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know people.
Yeah,
who
there you
drink too
go.
much. But so then, where does this come in? Because like now it brings on this feeling that I feel like I've seen before within Christianity, where it's like, well, if you drink alcohol, you're going to hell. Versus like there has to be like I don't drink anymore, but like there has to be like okay, you can have a few and be okay.
I mean, I personally don't drink. I mean, I make wine. I've made wine before. I'll drink my own wine that I've made that has nothing added. Literally, it's grapes fermented.
Okay.
It tastes like kombucha, and it's very low in alcohol content. But even then, I don't drink that too much either. But there's a time and a place for everything. I mean, most people think about how often they drink. People that drink, think about how often it happens. Maybe it's 1 glass a night, 2 glasses a night, or 4 on the weekend or something like that.
Day.
Yeah, or 4 every day.
day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it dominates their life. And it's not necessarily their fault. It's what we're programmed to do. So the energies, the leaders on this planet know something they have a very high intelligence on how to create stress. And so when you create stress, naturally you look for outlets. And guess what? When you put in liquor stores everywhere, the easiest way outlet you have is to go turn to alcohol, right?
Yeah.
Very easy, right? And even drugs. They make drugs very readily available and accessible for people to, consume. But that's because they set up this planet to be stressful. It's not set up to be like a heaven. It's not set up to be like a peaceful place. So a good story that I can tell on how they set this planet up is a story my guru told me from the time when he was Krishna. So this is not like a story that's known to many. This is a story that it was from his experience as when he was Krishna. And so he had this uncle, and his name was Kamsa. And so I may butcher the story a little bit because I'm recollecting it. But so his uncle was a king of this region, some region, I forget the region that he was the king of. And his people were becoming extremely intelligent, like very high conscious beings. And he realized, like, if he doesn't dumb them down, he'll no longer be a king because everybody will be kings, essentially. So there's no need for him.
He has the attachment to being a king.
Yes. And so Kamsa goes to one of his uncles or something or other, and he says, listen, like, I have a problem. This is my problem. What can I do? And he says, I can't help you, but if you go to this guru and study under him for a year, or if you go to this guru and just be his student, he'll teach you what you need to know. And so Kamsa goes to this guru, wherever it may be, and is extremely pious. He's a great student. He, does whatever his guru is guiding him to do. And so after a year, he didn't ask for a single thing. He just very much enjoyed being a student of this guru. He was very humble about it too. And so after a year, the guru came to him and he's like, okay, what do you want? What is it you came here for? And so he says, listen, I have this problem. My people are becoming very intelligent. Like, how can I suppress them?
Very conscious.
Very conscious. They're becoming high conscious beings to the point where everybody's a king. So what can I do?
Yeah.
Right? And so
everybody's a king.
Well, once everybody becomes a god, everybody's a god, So
there's nothing that makes you better.
There's no need to rule over anybody, right? So there's no need for a ruler. He'll become his job gets eradicated. And so Kamsa, so the guru says to Kamsa, he says, okay, this is what you're going to do. You're going to open a pub, okay? You're going to open up lots of pubs, and you're going to give out easy loans for the people, okay? So you create banks and give out loans that are very easy for people to get. Home loan, whatever type of loan, right? Home loan, whatever. Business loan, whatever. And make it easy. And he says, make the monthly payments low at first, but steadily increase them over time. And he said, okay. So if we just take a little zoom out to our modern society, it's 100% Kamsa's plan. So now what the world has followed is Kamsa's plan, or Kamsa's guru's plan. And so people, they're indoctrinated in school, not given the opportunity for indigo education. They're given slaver education. Slaver education just means you end up working for somebody else. You're not given education on how to be a higher being.
You have to be here at this time. You have to do that. You have to,
Exactly, right? You're not given any of the nature intelligence, nothing about, you don't learn about crystals. You don't learn about energy work. You don't learn about emotions. You don't learn about nature. You don't learn about meditation. Exactly. You don't learn about any of these things. Breath work, feng shui, just setting up a room properly. You don't learn about any of these things.
Yeah.
And so naturally you do that, and then you get a job, or before you even get the job, you have to get student loans, and there you go. Once you have that loan, it's over for it. It's not over for you, but it's tough.
It's the start.
You're stressed.
Yeah.
So first you're stressed in school because you have exams. Okay. By the time you get to high school, your level of stress is so high that you're either on some medication or you're partying. And if you're not, you're part of the very few, right? You're a very minority if you're not, drinking alcohol and doing drugs or prescribed some Adderall or whatever, right? You're part of the minority. And then when you go to college, if you aren't partying, you're in the extreme minority to manage your stress, right?
Yeah.
And then you're in debt. That's it.
You instantly become in debt too.
Once you're
before
in debt,
you even worth valuable.
Yeah, what happens
value.
when you're in debt? You have to get a job. You have no choice because you have a monthly payment to make. And if you don't make that monthly payment, you're in trouble.
They come after everything.
Yes.
And then if you don't
your
have
freedom's
it,
gone.
if you don't have the money, they go after your family.
Exactly. And guess what? All the stress that's going to come from your family onto you if you don't pay that bill, they're going to be so mad at you, right? So it's like you're just suppressed at every opportunity. So what do you turn to? You turn to the pubs that they offer you. What's the most common place for a college kid to hang out? A bar.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, what's the most common thing, stress reliever that people do? They have a drink.
Yeah.
You know, that's just how they've set this planet up. But I will say, as negative as that sounds, that plan is completely coming unwound at this moment. And the plan in place by Babaji, by my gurus, by the even the Galactic Federation is involved, whether you're aware, whether people are aware or not. There's there's beings out there supporting. So specifically, I was told by my guru, the Andromeda.
The
Andromedians, I think, is
okay.
Andromedians are the species there, but the Andromeda cluster, those people are supporting, and so, yeah, there's a lot of revelations that are coming, there, and it's happening. We're in the age of what's called Satya Yuga, and Satya Yuga is the age of truth. There's these in Hindu, and I don't want to say Hindu, but like because Hindu is not really a religion, but in, if you will, Sanatana Dharma or the Vedic texts or just history, there's time cycles. Everything works on a cycle. And there's these things called yugs, which is a time cycle, a span of time. And traditionally it's known that there's 4, but I believe secretly there's 5. So there's...
Okay.
I can't remember the first one, but
should I look it up?
And I can't remember the orders of them. Yeah, you can look up what are the 4 yugas? Yugas. Y-U-G-A-S.
Yeah, they're not going to have all 5.
They will, but they'll say that 2 of them are the same, which they're not.
Okay, we'll dive into that in a second.
Yeah.
Age or yug. So that's another thing about Sanskrit is they always usually end with an A, but like when you pronounce it, you're supposed to just like cut it.
You can say yuga.
Like pranayama. You're supposed to say pranayam.
You can say both.
Okay.
Both are accepted. I don't know why they do that, but both are accepted. Because when you were reading the yagya, I said yagya, but it's yaga on the screen.
Okay.
So you can say either way.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can say either way.
Let's see here. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
5, 6.
You want me to pronounce them?
Yug
if you pull them up,
cycle.
I'll tell you.
Okay. Let's see here. Is this it? I'm on Wikipedia, so. Because isn't like the Kali Yuga one?
Yeah.
Maybe this is it.
Here we are. Yeah. So there's Krita Yuga.
Wait, hold on. You're not in your microphone.
My bad. So there's Krita Yuga, and they say it's Satya, which is the same, which is not, from my understanding from my guru. And then they say there's Treta.
Bring your mic with you.
There's Dwarpa, and there's Kali. So Kali's just come to an end, right? So all 4 of these cycles have just come to an end. And now we're entering into Satya Yuga, which is really the 5th. It's not the same as this one.
It's not the same as Krita?
No, it's the 5th. From what my gurus have explained to me. And so Satya Yuga is the age of truth.
It's also a lot longer the way they have it written here. It's a lot longer. So maybe that's... Okay,
even those timelines are probably not fully correct.
Okay,
because
so here's one too.
They have...
Yeah. Well, see, this says, though, that the Kali Yuga is supposed to be lasting until 428,000 CE.
Which, again, it's not proper. Not proper, because it's already come to an end. Kali Yuga's ended. So if you look up what is Kali Yuga marked by, what are the characteristics of Kali Yuga?
Let's see here if we click this. Is the 4th... Let me see if I can zoom in on this. 4th and worst of the 4 in the Yuga cycle, preceding Dwarpa.
By Dwarpa Yuga.
Following by the next cycle, which is Krita Satya Yuga, but you're saying it's just Satya.
It's just Satya, yeah.
Satya. It is believed to be the present age, which is the full of conflict and sin. According to Puranic sources, Krishna's death marked the end of the Dwapara Yuga and the start of the Kali Yuga, which is dated to they have an exact date, 17th or 18th
So let's
of
read this
February.
line. This is the important one.
Near the end of the Kali Yuga, which is what we're approaching, when virtues are at their worst, a cataclysm and a reestablishment of Dharma occur to usher in the next cycle of Satya Yuga, prophesied to occur by Kalki.
Kalki, which is the 10th avatar of Vishnu.
Okay.
And so essentially what they're describing is Kali Yuga is total corruption, world-ending tragedies, right?
Right.
So if you think about the last 100 years in the world, and you think about what's happened in the last 100 years, it's been marked by absolute
World
devastation.
wars.
Exact. Nuclear weapons, nuclear war, right?
nuclear
And
war.
the threat of nuclear war looming at all times, all the way up until the birth of my guru. The moment my guru took birth and his purpose was
Which
established.
was when?
His exact day, I don't know.
Do you know the year?
I mean, the exact day I know. I don't know the year.
Yeah. Okay.
So I know his birthday. I don't know the year.
Okay.
But it hasn't been very long. But that was the mark of the end. So if Krishna's death was the end of Dwapara Yuga, Krishna's birth is the mark of the beginning of Satya Yuga.
Interesting.
And so now the age of truth begins.
But like roughly 20 years, 30 years.
30 to 40
30
years.
or 40 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
so around there. And so if you look at all of the knowledge and the revelations that have happened just in the last 5 years alone, how much truth has been exploded.
Insane.
So it's the age of truth. Think about how much corruption went unnoticed 5 years ago. Right? 5 years ago, how much people didn't realize what was going on in the world. Ever since COVID, everybody's become extremely aware. The intelligence in people has just tremendously jumped, right? To where conversations like maybe our government doesn't have our best interest in mind is like easy to have with people. Whereas before,
It seems like that's something everyone agrees upon too.
yeah, of course.
Like no matter which side of the aisle you're on, no matter whether you're a vaxxer or anti, it's
yes,
like
but
we all
5 years
agree.
ago, 5 years ago, that conversation wasn't always an option.
Right.
It wasn't always an option. And it's not even just that. It's about other sciences, like cosmic sciences. People will talk about them. Like we're having this conversation right now. Having these conversations with like normal friends back in the day was not common. But
Dude, it was kind of cool actually yesterday.
Yeah.
It's interesting you bring this up because yesterday we were talking about the Magdalene manuscript, which talks about like how to use sex energy to like charge your astral body. And I had a buddy of mine who's like into this stuff. We were getting out of the sauna, and on his back he kind of had like the snakes intertwined, kind of like the, what are they, like the hospital sign where the two snakes are going up the pole and they intersect.
Yeah.
And on the sword, it was like through a sword, and on the sword were like all the chakras. It was like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. And so I started talking to him outside the sauna and outside of the locker room. I was like, hey man, like, dude, this is actually a really sick tattoo. Like, and I started explaining to him like the Magdalene manuscript about how you can charge your astral body, like, and what this is representative of. He's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I've never heard that, but it makes sense. We walk into the restroom, and I see one of my jujitsu professors in there, and he's like, what was that you were talking out there about, like, charging your astral body? And, like, so I start, like, explaining it to him. I probably went a little too high in my explanation because I was so excited.
yeah.
Probably started
We've
saying a
all
little
been
yeah.
there. We've all been there.
Probably started explaining a little too much.
Yeah.
But the reason I bring that up is because he was, like, into the conversation. Like he didn't fully understand what I was saying, but there was like a glimmer in his eye of like,
curiosity.
There's something here I should learn.
Open-mindedness.
Yeah.
Right?
And then he went on to say how he meditated the other day, and like then I saw him later in the day, and he was like, yeah, like I started thinking more about like what we were talking about, and like, you know, I've been meditating more, and it's like not on purpose, and I'm like,
yep,
it's happening.
Yes,
it's happening.
Of course. I mean, just look at social media nowadays. The type of knowledge being exposed there. Like and it's amazing. I think it's beautiful, and it's probably why Babaji assigned to me, the task of trying to create this social media.
And you know what? Here's actually a really good thing I thought of. I'm going to give you this. You should do this. I think all social media platforms should do this. But what I've noticed is like with Threads, what's really beautiful about it is like I'm taking into it the energy of like trying to find more connected individuals of like on these certain paths. So there's like a kind of like a meme, if you will, that goes through Threads where people are like, here, I'll pull it up so you can see it.
Yeah.
Where people are like, dear algorithm. Let me see. I'll pull it up here. I got to sign in and stuff. That's going to be a whole process.
Yeah.
Where they'll say something like, dear algorithm, bring me people who are like environmentalists, do yoga, and they'll have a whole list.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And so the point is like now you're feeding the algorithm like these words. And so it's like, oh, okay, I'll bring you people who are also doing this thing.
Right.
And I think the beauty in it and what had me realize is like people have been on Facebook for 10 years. Who you were 10 years ago is not who you are today.
Yeah.
So you need to have some sort of system that is going to purge out or like even just reset. So now you're like getting new information from the person of like, okay, who are they now? Because like that's who you want to cultivate or even like bring forth with that.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely AI models that do that.
Yeah.
They won't scrape data from,
that long ago.
No. Everything's based off your recent activity, like real time, blah, 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 whatever. But I mean, just basing a platform off of that, that's pretty cool. I think that, I mean, if more platforms focused on that, but their focus right now is more so just looping. Yeah, loop. Yeah, well, the loop is really.
So then maybe this is a good segue because I know you briefly talked about it. You're making an app. You're making a social media app with the blessing of Mahavatar Babaji.
Yeah. Well, with the guidance. Blessing and guidance.
Blessing and guidance.
Yes.
So what is it about? Because I know I signed up. It's not fully released yet. I know I put my like email in to the thing like a while ago. So whenever you guys get that. So I'm interested in that timeline. But before we get to the timeline, like what is it that's going to be different about this social media platform?
Right. So essentially, the way it was described to me was that there's a platform that China uses. There's a platform that, Japan uses. And then there's platforms that Americans use. There's a platform that Indians use, right?
And so when you say describe to you, like from Babaji?
Babaji and my gurus. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so essentially, there's a turning point in the world right now where the world's going to come together in a way that it's never been brought together before. And part of that coming together is creating a social media platform that bridges the gap between country, right? And essentially, Amara is going to be that platform. It's going to be, this is just what it was described to me as. And so it's going to be a platform that brings people from all countries together, regardless of language or interests or whatever. And so right now, the way the world's set up is we're all segmented. So it's easy to think that your culture is the only culture in the world. But, one thing that I think should be part of every person's education is to live in a different part of the world for an extended period of time.
So powerful.
It's incredibly powerful because, like, you grow up with all your own traditions, your own ways, you're set in them. And then, like, you get put into an environment that you're not used to, and it makes you understand those people better. And then it makes you realize it's like, wow. So these people's cultural norms, like, it's not like we're against each other. It's not like we don't like each other. It's that this is what they grew up experiencing. And, you can come to appreciate the beauty in another culture just by spending time in that culture. So, before I went to India, I had a bunch of Indian friends because I was almost certainly Indian in a previous birth, a recent previous birth. And because it just made sense to me, the whole Indian culture. Like, when I went there, they couldn't believe how fast I adjusted to their culture because I was just ready to be there. I wanted to be there. I knew my guru was there and I just wanted to be there so much. And for most people, they probably wouldn't have lasted 2 weeks. Like, just
it's a culture shock.
It's a big culture shock, especially if you're not like, fine, if you're traveling by yourself and you're booking your own hotel rooms. But I was living with, people. I was living in their home. I was living in my guru's home, and like, it was just like India is very different than the United States in terms of not very different, but in terms of like day-to-day life, in terms of infrastructure. So the power would go out all the time, right? They didn't have an AC unit in their home. Like the fans were the only thing. But if the fan goes out and it's 100 degrees outside, like you're there, you know, and it's the norm. So I remember being in there like the first, and I was there during the hottest months twice, which is like February, March, April, June. And it was just so hot. And I remember I'm like, it's not really culturally acceptable to like walk around without a shirt on there. I'm outside, but even in the home, you don't not wear a shirt. I'm like, I can't wear a shirt. Like I explained to everybody in the house, I'm like, I just can't. It's so hot to me. Like,
yeah,
I'm so uncomfortable with how hot it is that I can't wear a shirt. But it made me come to appreciate when I came back to the United States. I just like saw Indians totally differently. Indian people in the United States totally differently. I'm like, oh, I can see exactly why you're making certain decisions in day-to-day life. Like now I understand why, you know, you make these decisions. Like it just made sense to me. So a lot of people would like, you know, judge somebody from another culture coming into their country. They'll be like, you know, what do you like? Why are you doing this or why are you doing that? It's like, well, go and experience their culture. Yeah. And you'll come to appreciate and understand why. And instead of judging them, you'll accept them. And you'll be like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is no big deal.
Especially just even like little facial expressions or like.
Yep.
There was I experienced this with Brazilians. Yeah. So I went on a date with a Brazilian girl. And the lady came over to take our order. We were at a restaurant. We were sitting down. And we're kind of looking at the menu, and she wasn't really answering.
This was in Brazil?
This was in America.
In America, okay.
Yeah, so she was a Brazilian in America. And we were sitting at the restaurant and looking at the menu. I was like, oh, I know what I want. Like, do you know what you want? And she kind of, like, stuck up her nose and, like, kind of gave, like, this, like, scoff look. Like, kind of like a like, sort of look. And I was shocked by it because she's like a really nice girl. I'm just like, what the fuck was that? Like,
yeah.
I was like, okay, yeah, give us a second. So our waitress was like, okay, like no rush, da da da. She walks away, and I'm like, what the hell was that? And she's like, what? I was like, that face you made. She was like, oh, I just don't know what I want. I'm like, you looked like you were disgusted with me. And she was like, oh, that's just like a face of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
so
what?
that's funny you say that. I actually, when I was in high school, I dated a Brazilian girl, right? And I think her mother came to the U.S. when she was young, and so when the mother was young, and so the mother was very Brazilian, spoke English, obviously, not obviously, but she had learned English because she had to, and she wanted to, of course. Aside from the point, the way they communicated, I always thought they were yelling at each other when they were speaking in Portuguese to each other, Brazilian Portuguese to each other.
It's very fast and loud.
I thought they were yelling. So I'd be in the house getting so uncomfortable. I'm like, oh my God, her mom is pissed. She's pissed. They're both pissed at each other. And I remember talking to my girlfriend after. I'm like, you know, what were you guys fighting about? She's like, fighting? We were just talking. I'm like, what? No way.
There's so much energy.
Yeah, well, I mean, and then you look at how Italians communicate. It kind of makes sense. They're constant. Like, I'm Italian, so when the Italian blood gets going,
yeah,
it seems like you're yelling at someone, but really you're just talking extremely loud.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Dude, yeah, there's a good joke. I forget who said it, but he was like talking about how he went over to like one of his Middle Eastern friends, and like you know, they spoke Arabic or whatever, and he was like the kid would get like called into the other room, and all I'd hear is he'd come back in and be like, my dad wants to know if you want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's like I thought you were about to get beat.
So one thing really cool about like from what I've experienced in like Arab cultures or Indian culture, like Eastern culture, is how quick they are to offer you like food and drink when you're like a guest in their home.
Brazilians are so hospitable.
Oh, they are too.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
They're amazing.
But maybe it's just Americans that really don't do that much.
I think so.
They're very like, we're very much private with our lives here.
Yeah.
Very, very private.
Especially like, Northeast. Especially Northeastern people.
I mean, it's just it's so cold, dude. So it's like, stay away.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah. But like, I don't know what it is. But like when I was in India, the standard is like I think in their culture, what they believe is like like a guest in your home is like serving God food type of thing, something like that. They just know it's very good karma in a way. Like it's ingrained in their culture to offer your guests at the very least tea. And I love tea culture. They do it in Italy. They do coffee culture, right? Where they take coffee breaks, right?
Okay.
They do it in Arab culture. But in the U.S., it's like we go in the morning to get a huge cup of coffee. We drink it by ourselves. We're wired on the way to work, and then we crunch numbers, and then we go get another one by ourselves. There's no like sense of community there.
Yeah.
But we have our own things, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, it's fascinating, man. It's fascinating, all the little things. Because I know in high school, being Italian as well, loved Italian food. And so my only viewpoint of when you would say like Italian culture or, let's say Greek culture was food. Like I thought that's what culture meant, was just, oh, they have different foods.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much actually was in the word culture until I went and really dove into, Brazilian culture, like understanding the little different nuances, the way they spoke, and there's like just little things too. I'm having a hard time thinking of an example, but just like little things, like kids there, for instance, until they were like 28 or 29, they lived with their parents. Like,
oh yeah, that's
just a thing.
Well, that's standard in a lot of cultures outside the U.S.
The grandma would really raise the kid. So
Yeah.
it was like the mom would basically, find the husband, and it seemed like there was like kind of broken homes, but they weren't really broken. Like a lot of kids out of wedlock. I don't know if that's just what I was exposed to in Brazil. I'm not trying to say that's all of Brazil.
There's this concept explained by Osho, where I was reading some book by Osho, and he was saying like, it's, family's good. The family unit's okay. He definitely didn't say that, but he said something about the family unit being like this place where you're pretty much like impregnating all your own thoughts and your desires on your kid, right? And that it's important for the kid to be exposed to, other parental leaders, like not just the two father, mother, but like the grandfather, the friends of the father, mother, like essentially like a village environment, right? Or a community environment where there's multiple people and you can go to any of them to talk about your problems or your worries or your fears and your stresses, because a lot of times what's happened in modern culture is two parents don't live out their life the way they wanted to, and they try to live it through their own two kids.
Yeah.
And whatever fears they have, they pass down to their kids. And whatever stresses and worries they have, they pass down to their kids.
Well, do you think that just takes care of itself then, if people are actually living their dharma?
Oh, of course.
Like,
But nobody. So you find me a group of a country that's living their dharma to its fullest. I don't think it exists as of right now. It will happen. That's why Krishna's here. Yeah. But the way society's structured, it doesn't allow that fully, because like, if you want to get on a plane tomorrow, like I was able to leave the United States for 2 years because I had zero, I thought I had responsibilities, but I had no responsibilities. Yeah. I had no debt. Right. That was the only thing that would have kept me in the U.S. was debt. Yeah. So I dropped out of college. I had paid my way until that point. And that was like, I had no monthly payment. So I was able to just, when I was in that car, like trying to make that decision whether I should stay in India after the first 2 weeks, it was only supposed to be a 2-week trip. Like I was able to be like, okay, well, the ultimate thing here is I don't have a bill to pay, so I don't have to go back home. Yeah. I'm not putting that financial burden onto anybody else. So, yeah.
It's freedom. Yeah. That's real freedom.
Yeah.
Wait, so let's get back to the app, because you're saying that it's going to be something that crosses essentially borders. Right, so like, it's
meant to bring unity in love and peace. It's supposed to be an enjoy. Sorry, you go on with your question. No, I don't want to interrupt.
No, that's a good point, right? How do you achieve unity when there are so many cultural differences, when there's a language barrier? How do you bridge that gap over social media?
So we have some plans that I probably won't share for the next phase of the app until we do it. Just because I don't want to put the ideas out there and to
that's fair. That's fair.
to be just gathered. But for right now, the the very first step is to just launch the platform, and Babaji will take care of the rest. I already know. He'll, whatever his intentions are, I do what I'm told. He says, listen, you need to gather the people, you need to do this, like, go onto this podcast, do the conversations, do these things. Okay, no problem. I can do my end. But when it comes to creating luck energy, I can't do that. Like, I'm not Babaji. I look to my gurus for that. So they create the luck energy.
So what is luck energy though then? Is that a thing?
Yeah, of course. Like, you've never met somebody that's like, you look at their life and you're like, wow, that's a lucky person,
I don't know. I kind of see it as, all their past lives up until this moment mixed with their karma is what created it. Not just like
Right, but that's luck too. There's got to be some luck involved, no?
I don't know. What do we mean when we say luck?
Luck is just like good fortune energy, right? Good fortune. Like it'll go your way. So even a person who's done everything right can still have bad luck if one thing's out of place. So I don't know how to keep. I'm not. Have you ever studied feng shui before?
Not like
or Vastu Shastra?
I know the idea, but I have not gone deep into it.
So feng shui and Vastu Shastra. I think feng shui came from Vastu Shastra, and if I'm saying any of these wrong, forgive me. But the idea is you can organize things in a certain way in order to achieve more favorable outcomes, right? So usually, most commonly, it talks about how you organize your home, like how you set up your home, like the doorway, the landscape, the hall, the way you build your home, whether the hallway goes straight through. You can lose energy this way. If you put money on a door, it brings in wealth. All of these different things, just creating like energies of luck and good fortune and so on and so forth. It's very much bigger in Eastern cultures, but the people in the West that know about it. Like, they know.
Okay.
Like I said, millionaires don't practice astrology. Billionaires do. So millionaires may not know about feng shui. Billionaires do. So
okay.
So essentially, my knowledge is not expensive there. Babaji knows this. My guru Krishna knows this. They're very much aware of how to use these energies to create good fortune around certain things. It's beyond me. So I do as my gurus tell me. My duty is my duty. Their duty is their duty. So essentially, Babaji wants to set up the planet to become like a heaven. So he's creating Mysore as a model city. That's a form of feng shui, right? Maybe it's not a house, but it's a city.
It's a city level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So free food, free this, free that, right? Getting rid of the mafia, getting the mafias all arrested, getting rid of the beggars, giving them education, right? He's creating an environment of joy, of peace, of love, right? So the same way I'm creating this app, he'll create the environment of joy, of unity, of peace, of love surrounding that application.
So is it almost just
the actual, if you want, before you say anything else, like some practical things about the app, like there's different unique upload templates I created on it. There's a separate feed for friends and following. So like if you want to see what your friends are doing and not have to worry about all the people you follow on top of that, we created a news feed where you can friend somebody, you can follow someone, or you can do both. And so if you're friends with someone, you have a news feed, you go through all your friends and never have to worry about not missing one of their posts again, which is pretty common on current social platforms because of all the noise going on.
Yeah.
And then you have a following feed. So all the people you follow, you can look at their content that way. So the way I see it is you follow content creators, you friend friends and family type of thing.
Have you thought about, and this is something I actually just recently posted on Threads, have you thought about changing the terminology from following to like connection?
That could be a thing, right? That could be a thing. I mean, I wouldn't put it past us, but just for the basic knowledge, like for the general human right now, I think following is just the easiest way to like but it could turn into connection someday.
I'm just thinking about it from the energetics of words.
Yeah.
It's like followers. It's like if you have 1 million followers, it's like.
But some people like that, right?
Well, feels like it would feed your ego.
So I had this whole ideology that you're explaining right now, but some people enjoy stuff like that. I don't want to take away the joy of somebody. Like, how do I explain this? So essentially, if you're deathly afraid of something, right? You don't overcome your fear by avoiding your fears. You overcome your fear by going into your fear. So if you're an ego person and all you care about is followers, get all the followers you want. Go, get them all. Like, do your thing. I totally support you doing that. Like, go for it. And at some point, if you're ready in this life, you'll realize, okay, followers isn't everything. It's not.
Now, this actually ties back to a question I had earlier in regards to the story with Kamsa and, did I say his name right? Kamsa and him starting these pubs and money and loans. Is that like, because like when you think of a guru, you think of like an enlightened master who's going to like show the way. And so it's like, that would be like a feeling that would be negatively charged, right? To create people in fear and scarcity. But is it something that's like on Kamsa's path to be like, okay, maybe you need to understand what this energy is? Like,
well, that's a great question. I mean, that's a pretty profound question that you're asking. Like, did the guru at that time have the insight to know whether or not Kamsa should, like, did the guru at the time think of as in like his karmic path?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I do know that there's different levels of gurus for sure. Like, I can be right now. I explained to you the atoms thing. I become a guru for that moment, but in the next moment, you explain something that I don't know, like whatever it may be. You become a guru in that moment, and I become a student, right? And so at this time, I'm supposed to come. I mean, at this time, anybody can be a guru, a student. But when I say guru, and I mean a true guru, one that's going to guide you to enlightenment, to your highest purpose, that's different. I look at Mother Nature as a true guru. I look at her as she has my best interest in mind. She knows my karmic journey. She knows my path. Like, she sees this. I trust her more than, I trust her to put the trust in me type of thing. And same with my gurus, Babaji and Krishna. Like, I put my trust in them entirely, knowing that they see my karmic path far beyond what I see. So did Kamsa have that type of guru then? I don't know. Was he just a knowledge-based guru telling him his knowledge, not knowing his karmic journey? I don't know. That I don't know. But true gurus versus, or the way my guru would say it is the right guru. He wouldn't say true guru. He would say the right guru will guide you on your path. And I think Mother Nature is the right guru. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
That makes sense what you're saying, though. It's like, because this actually ties back to the conversation I had with this guy in the jiu-jitsu bathroom around the chakras. Because at the end of it, he's overweight, and he's not. I guess he's overweight. Yeah, he's bigger. And he talks about how what can chakras help you do or something like that, being aligned. I'm like, well, I could do a lot, right? But one of the things he's like, oh, can it help me stop eating pizza late at night? And I was like, and I gave him the insight of like, you need to be okay essentially with eating pizza late at night. Like, maybe that's, and I didn't explain it to him like this, but in terms of our conversation, maybe it's a part of your journey to experience eating pizza late at night, because having the negative energy of feeling guilty for eating that pizza is going to keep that karmic loop going.
Yeah.
That samskara. You're going to keep doing it because you're like, all right, this is the last time. And then you do it, and then you feel like shit. And so like just that energy of feeling bad is attached to the action.
I always tell people, enjoy what you're doing to the fullest. That's what my guru always taught me. Enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Even if you feel like, if you know something's the wrong thing, but wrong. But like, if you're going to have
murder.
pizza, yeah. But if you're going to have pizza, it's like, enjoy it, move on from it. Don't beat yourself up. It's the mental conversation, like you were saying, that is what ruins all great things. So it's just that guilt that can suppress you, that fear.
Yeah.
When you're in that place, like, you don't come out from anything. But if you're in a state of enjoyment, a lot of times you know when to stop. Like, you know when is enough and when's not. It's like, oh, okay. Like, that was great. And it lasted while it lasted. It's over now, but it's okay.
Right.
So it's the people that have this conversation going on in their mind that carries it into the next day, into the next day, into the next day. It's like, oh, but I had pizza yesterday, and oh, I shouldn't be doing it again today. I'm such a bad person. And it's like, well, since I'm already a bad person, I might as well have pizza again today.
Yeah, because that's what bad people do.
Exactly.
Yeah, bad people eat pizza. I'm a bad person for eating pizza, so I'm just gonna keep eating it.
But if you love pizza, eat your pizza, you know? Like, that's how I see it. It
brings you joy, because that's like a whole nother level.
I make pizza, dude. Like, side note, I love making pizza. Like, ever since I was a kid, I've always, like, pizza's been, like, just a staple in my diet. I don't know why I love it. I went vegan for a few years. Tried to figure out how to make pizza properly vegan, and I do a pretty good job nowadays making it vegan, but I'll throw cheese on every once in a while. But like forming the dough, the process, the whole like learning how to make the dough properly, it's such an enjoyable thing. Like the fermentation process is such a knowledge, like a lost art in my opinion. And I made grapes into wine. I turn grapes into wine. That's how you make grapes.
Not water.
I mean wine.
You don't turn water into wine?
No,
Never gotten there yet?
No, I haven't gotten there yet. But the fermentation process, it's all a fermentation process. And it's a knowledge that we were never taught in school that I would have loved to learn. It was so cool. But that was just a side note with the pizza thing, that I enjoy pizza. And, I'll have it multiple times a week. I don't care. But the ingredients you're using matters as well. So if you really love pizza, if you're this guy, this Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, my suggestion to you is make your own pizza and make it healthier. It's much healthier when you make it yourself. So
that's good advice just to know.
And just the effort going into making it makes it so much more satisfying too.
It's that connection piece.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. Like, it's just, so when I made the wine for the first time, it's like, I wasn't like expecting it to be such an enjoyable process. There's not a lot of things that you can really just enjoy the process where you're not like looking forward to an outcome. I wasn't like, oh, I really want the wine. I was more like, oh, I want to learn how to make wine. Yeah. I wasn't dying for alcohol. I was dying for, a cool hobby and just the process, because my grandfather had always made wine. He had passed away. We had all these grapes. And we had all the things to make the wine. And it's like, well, who's going to make the wine? And I'm like, I'll learn how to make wine. Why not? Let's try. And I had this great experience in India where they tap into a palm tree and they extract palm wine, right? Which is just this very, very mild alcohol. It's the only time I had alcohol while I was in India, the one time. And it came from a palm tree, like a coconut tree, right? And it was just called palm wine. It was just water that was in the tree that had fermented for a little bit from the sugars in the tree, and you drank it, and you don't get really drunk or anything, but like it definitely lightened your mood a little bit in a way. And it was just such a cool process. So I'm like, okay, well, my whole life I've only really been fed the chemicalized alcohol that, these stores give us. So maybe I want to see what it's like to just take grapes and turn them into wine and see what happens there. And I ended up with this fantastic end product of like this kombucha grape juice that obviously if you drink too much of, you can definitely go to the wrong place by moderation.
Get those demons in there.
Yeah. No, we don't want those. Nah. Definitely don't want those.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially avoiding those demons because like I guess then there's a level of like how much alcohol you've taken on, and then you're still able to invite in the right demons. Is that maybe a way to look at it?
So I told you about my experience when I was 19, where I was like my lowest. I was so depressed. I was so anxious. I was partying the most. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. And that's a result of all the alcohol I was drinking. And so I quit. I quit doing it. It's not just the alcohol, obviously. It's a result of the environment I would put myself in, the thoughts. But the alcohol plays a big role in your thinking, your thought processes, right? If you've ever woken up with a hangover, are you ever like, oh my God, this is the best day ever. I love today. No, you don't wake up thinking
today's definitely better than the last.
No, you're like, today sucks. I'm so hungover. I don't want to do anything. I'm not going to the gym. I just want to eat fast food and chill on the couch and complain about my life. So if you do that over and over again, if you do that more than once a week, right? In college, you do it, 3 times a week at least?
Yeah.
I shouldn't say 3 times a week, but maybe it did get to that point when I was in college. And that's a very bad mindset. That breeds for a terrible environment. Like, your thoughts have literally changed. Now your body reflects those changes. So no wonder why I was so anxious, so depressed. It's like, okay, well, you set yourself up for this. So when I quit and I just, took to like reading books that I really enjoyed and doing things that I didn't like, I had to get rid of all these other energies around me. I had to get to know myself. So I stopped hanging out with the people I knew for like, I was best friends with for like 4 years, 5 years. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to go do those things anymore. I need to get to know who I am. And that's how you're able to reverse those things. And then eventually you have to find, in my opinion, eventually you have to find a guru through nature or through an embodied guru or through Paramahansa Yogananda to take you to
the next stage.
Yeah, the next stage eventually.
Well, and this is where it gets interesting for me is like, we're talking here about, at least you, I mean, probably both of us have cultivated karma and energy in our past lives that have come through into this life that makes certain things attainable easier. Probably the best way to word that. So in regards to this first 19 years of your life, like this not knowing, this confusion, like for me it was probably 25 years. The first 25 years were very like, I don't know what's going on, I've got questions, but drinking's kind of cool and fun, and doing drugs is cool and kind of fun, and having one night stands is kind of cool and having fun, so I'm just going to kind of go along with it. To me it seems like, especially when it comes to meditation, this is something that I had to have been aware of in a past life of doing, maybe had a guru, enlightened, whatever. Why is it then in this first 19 years for you, 25 for me, that this was just a mystery? Like, do you have any insight into why it wasn't just pick up where you left off?
You have to, in order to become enlightened, right? So this is what I asked my guru this same question. He said, in order to become enlightened, you have to first know the dark. If you don't know the dark, you'll never come to appreciate the light. And so I asked specifically my guru why all of those years. Like, that was tough. Those were tough years. And on the outside, maybe it seems like I was enjoying my life, but on the inside, it was, torture. I just remember asking him, I'm like, and I didn't really even need to ask him this. I just knew internally, like, if I had not gone through those experiences, I would not be so passionate about teaching people an alternative way. I wouldn't have the experience to connect with people. So it's like, if I didn't have that experience in high school, then how can I convince a high schooler that's doing it now?
Right.
So it's like, you have to have a certain energy to yourself where it's always planned. There's always a higher plan, but the energies, when I look back at my life, they put me in those situations so that I could handle the situations I have today and be able to relate to the people that I am with today. Because without those experiences, I couldn't speak to a younger audience. Because it's not, don't get me wrong, it's not the older generation that's going to change the world right now. It's the younger generation that's going to change the world. This plan that Babaji has in place appeals most to people our age and younger.
Yeah.
Like, if I was to explain to my mom about Babaji coming and, creating a free food, free education, free Medicare environment, maybe she'd be open-minded, but that older audience would be like, no, we worked for everything back in the day. Like, you got to work hard and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I understand hard work. I also understand smart work. I also understand having open-mindedness to see a bigger picture in a brighter world, in a better future. And so it's really the younger kids that are going to be able to be willing to respond to a message like this. And having those experiences, I'm able to go and talk to these kids and be like, hey, like, even my little sister who's 16 right now, her and I are like, or 17, her and I are like extremely good friends. We're like best friends.
Yeah.
I can relate to everything. Maybe I can see her making decisions that I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't make that decision now, but at the time I can see why you're making that decision. And I'm not going to stop you. But if you come to me for advice, I know what to say now. Because I can relate to you on such a deep level. Like, I remember what it was like being 17.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't take those experiences away, and because they all lead to who you are. They shape you as a person. So, which is super cheesy and cliche, but it's true.
But it's, there's some deep wisdom in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because it does seem like, what is it? It's like you can't relate to people if you haven't been where they're at.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to relate to them on some level of like, okay, I've been there too. I remember when I did this. I remember when I made this decision, and this was the outcome. Is that the outcome you want? Probably not. But do you need to try that to realize you don't want that outcome? Go ahead.
Yep. Especially with, so I feel really tied to American culture. I'm very upset with the culture in America, especially surrounding the youth with the heavy alcohol use, the heavy drug use, the heavy, prescription medication use. I'm very passionate about, not passionate, I'm very energized to help fix that problem. I don't believe that this country should be sedating or doing all these things just so kids can concentrate on something they don't care about. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. You should not be stressing out an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 16-year-old, even an 18-year-old. You shouldn't be stressing them out. 20-year-old, 25-year-old. You don't create wonderful things from stress. You create wonderful things from open-mindedness, from clear-mindedness, from love, from peace, from happiness. So if we want to create a world filled with joy, filled with peace, filled with all these wonderful things, then we have to work to create an environment for these kids that induces all of these things. But the environment right now is the exact opposite.
Oh yeah.
Which is naturally upsetting.
I see that in teaching jiu-jitsu, where there's a couple of things that occur that are touching on what you're saying. Number one is the way that parents talk to kids. Like, okay, are you okay? Like this little bit. Like, they don't talk to kids how we talk to each other.
Right, of course.
That's the first thing that drives me insane.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, yeah, they're younger and we can use smaller words. Like,
right.
There's times where I'll even like use a word and I'm like, do you guys know what that word means? They're like, no. And I'm like, no. Okay, well, what it means is like have to update the speech.
Yep.
The other thing that really drives me crazy, and we kind of briefly talked about this earlier, is like being direct without anger, or being like authoritative without anger.
Yep.
It's like this energy of like they're doing the quote unquote wrong thing. And it's not that they're doing the wrong thing. They're just not doing what you want them to do right now. And now we label that as ADHD. We label that as them misbehaving. And it's like, oh, they don't want to sit in a chair for 45 minutes and listen to someone talk. It's like, look at your entire day. When was the last time you sat in a chair and listened to someone talk for 45 minutes for 8 hours straight?
And loved it.
And
enjoyed it.
Loved it.
And really wanted to be there. Yeah. Like, come on.
I don't, like, even if it was Krishna or maybe if it was Krishna or Babaji, I would sit and listen.
Yeah,
I was just correcting myself.
I was going to tell you, like, I've sat and listened to my guru talk. It could go on forever. Yeah. So,
I was going to say, I would correct myself there real quick. I was like, maybe I could sit for that. Yeah.
But with water breaks and food breaks. And
sure.
Yeah.
45 minutes, we can have some breaks.
Yeah.
But like, you bring in someone who's talking about something I don't care less about.
Exactly.
I don't know.
It's interest based.
Yeah.
It's very much interest based. So we bring, there's billions of souls on this planet, and we put them through the same exact machine. We pump them all through the same manufacturing line. It's like, are you kidding me?
Standardized testing.
Yeah, like, not everybody's, all these billion souls, they're not all the same. Like,
and the fact that we even categorize them by age. Like, our age is the thing we have most in common. It's like, no.
It's not true.
We figure shit out at different ages, everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bro, we're getting close on time. And you got a plane to catch. It's
what is that?
1:55.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
we're just getting close on time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually like to just give you at least 2 hours before your, flight.
My flight's not till 6, I don't think.
Oh, it's not till 6.
You know what? Maybe I should check that, right?
Oh, and maybe I saying
think 4 o'clock I need to be at the airport is what it is. Yeah, so my flight's not till 6.
I thought it was at 4, but maybe you're right.
Yeah, 4 we should be there is the standard practice, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it's
maybe I was thinking it was at 4.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but you pull the plug whenever you feel ready, because I'm down for whatever. I'm down to keep talking or whatever, so it's up to you.
Kind of drawing a blank, so maybe that was intentional. Unintentionally intentional.
How long have we been going for?
We're at 2 hours 50 minutes.
No way. That was 2 hours and 50 minutes?
Crazy, right?
Oh my gosh.
What did it feel like?
Maybe an hour at the most.
Crazy.
No, but even then I'd be like, that could have been 20 minutes and I would have believed it. So Yeah, that's awesome.
Isn't that
Awesome.
crazy how that happens?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Am I allowed to plug Amara at the end here?
Please do it. I haven't gotten your links yet, but you're gonna need to send me.
Yeah,
I'll have
okay.
you fill out that form.
Yeah.
But yeah, plug. This is your space. Like, speak directly to the audience.
Yeah. So
that camera's yours if you want to directly speak to them.
all right. Awesome. Yeah.
But plug your stuff. Tell them any parting words. Floor's yours.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, we're launching Amara. It's the social media platform we talked about throughout the entire podcast here.
You got a little bracelet on too.
Yeah, I got the bracelet. It says Amara Social done right on the other side. That's just a practice slogan.
How is it spelled?
Amara. So amarasocial.com if you want to check us out and join the wait list. We haven't launched yet. We're launching extremely soon. It's obviously a long process when you don't have a lot of money and you're not a software engineer yourself. So we're almost there. And I promise you guys it's an enjoyable platform. And just check it out. And I also, believe it or not, we never got into it in the podcast, but I started a political party back in I think 2021 when I first came back to the United States from India. And that's called the American Congress Party. And it's supporting all the ideals that I just mentioned in the podcast today, which was creating free food, chemical-free food, and as well as free education and free medication for all the people around, not just the United States, but obviously that's our focus, but around the world eventually. And so, yeah, it's called the American Congress Party. Nothing you can really follow as of right now, but I just wanted to mention that in case it comes up in the future at some point. So if you guys are interested.
Something that's coming up right now.
Yeah.
So maybe this is going to prolong it. But this is a huge element, especially in my life, and it sounds like with you too, not having money, things being free.
Yep.
How does that happen, right? You don't have any money. I know you talk about this often in your videos, is like, you don't have money to create this thing. You don't have money to fund this political party. Food's supposed to be free. Healthcare's supposed to be free.
Yeah.
How?
Well, money's an illusion. That's the number one thing that you have to realize is that money is not real necessarily. Okay? Obviously, you have to use money to go about day-to-day life. But it comes back to the metaphor I used earlier in the podcast about my guru being like a forest tree, right? If you become a supporter of Mother Nature, somehow, some way she'll support you. Like, for example, when I went to India, I think I had $700 in my bank account when I went to India, and that was it. And I lived there for 2 years. So obviously that wasn't enough to live there for 2 years. But when I got there, you just find ways, and nature just seems to take care of all. That was like probably the biggest reason I was worried about staying beyond the 2 weeks, by the way, was because I didn't really have money. But in those 2 weeks, my guru had taught me an important lesson on money, which was we planned this trip to Goa, or like we had to go to Goa to do this yagya, right? And for some reason, he knew the energies that time. And so we went to Goa when I first arrived in India. It was like the first week I was there. And he only had 250 rupees in his pocket. And he looked at me, and I had no money in my pocket. Like I had maybe like at this point, I probably had like $500, maybe even less in my bank account. And he looked at me, he's like, you see this 250 rupees? This is right before we left for India. He says, we're going to come back. We're going to go to Goa and come back, and I will not have touched these 250 rupees. I'm so open-minded at this point, just so elated to be with my guru, like realizing that I was with him. I'm like, let's go. Like, let's see what happens, let's just see what happens. And so we'd already bought the bus tickets or train tickets, so that doesn't count the 250, but we show up, and somehow this man comes to know of us being there, right? And he explains that he had a dream 2 weeks prior that Krishna was coming to Goa and that he had to be there to take care of him and to arrive, right? And so he finds out through his cousin that this guy is going to be doing yagya in Goa, some guy. And he's like, that's got to be Krishna. Like, that's got to be him. And so he comes and meets us and takes us everywhere we need to go, pays for every meal, gives us a plate, like gets us connected with this friend. His friend has a rental there, and his friend just gave us the rental, like the place that he was living at, and his wife cooked meals for us, breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day. Like, and if we weren't at home getting cooked for, at that place getting cooked for, he was paying for our meals at restaurants. And it got to the point where like they were fighting to pay who gets to pay for it.
Really?
Like, so him and his friend, the one that was like giving us the place to stay, and the guy who had the dream, Jayesh, and I forget the other man's name, they were like, no, I want to pay for his stuff. No, I want to pay for his stuff. Like, it was just this crazy experience. Here I am thinking, like, we didn't even have enough money to pay for any of this, and now we have people fighting over who gets to pay for it. So,
wow.
You know, when you're in service to nature, she just finds a way to take care of things. And so when I made that decision to stay in India, I'm like, okay, like, I don't have to worry about money that way, and I'm not going to worry about money. And so I came back to the United States. My parents' plan was to like kick me out unless I got a job type of thing. It's like, you need to grow up. That's like the standard American culture. It's like, all right, you had your fantasy, you went and lived in India, like grow up, get a job. They never directly said this to me, by the way.
Okay.
But I knew the plan. You can sense energies. You get a feel from what your siblings are saying, the rumblings on the streets, right? You get it. And so it just so happened that the situation aligned perfectly they needed me to be at home, like to help with some stuff, and it just aligned perfectly, dude. And so they didn't want to kick me out. They wanted me to get a job, but didn't want to kick me out, but they didn't know what to do. So I called that divine energies, bro. They aligned the situation to calm my parents, to be like, okay, you know what? He's an asset to have at home. We don't have to kick him out. Let's make this work, so on and so forth. And it just has been that way for the past 2 years since I've been home. And the situation will eventually change, and I will eventually have to move out and, you know, go into the world. But I know without a doubt that it will happen. Like, I think about the bills I have to pay this month for Amara, for the American Congress Party. I don't have enough money to pay it this month, right? I definitely don't have enough money to pay it. But I know that somehow, out of nowhere, something will happen. And it will just happen. Like, it's so weird how it happens. It's happened too many times for me to not have confidence that somehow the money's going to come. Just somehow. So naturally, if I can go down this rabbit hole of like my own thinking hole and being like, dude, how are you going to cover the bills? How are you going to pay for the expenses? Like, I don't go down that place. If I do, it's for a split second and I'm like, nope. I immediately, like, that's the power of mantra. I immediately say, nope. Nature's got me covered. Nature's got me covered. I'm the protector of nature. I serve nature. Nature will protect me. Like, I'm here to protect nature. She's here to protect me. Like, that's the immediate mantra that I just go back to. And, you know, by the end of the month, I'm confident that somehow the cost will be covered. And if they're not, we'll see what happens. You know, who knows?
There's something else in play.
Yeah, like, nature aligns everything. Like, she really does. And that's one of the most important things my guru taught me was serve nature, she'll protect you. But if you don't respect nature, not even just serve nature, if you respect nature, she'll give you what you need. But if you don't respect her, she'll make your life tougher than it needs to be. Like, definitely. And she'll teach you the hard lessons until you crack.
And then what are the things you can do to like serve nature and get in alignment with being blessed to have everything paid for whenever it needs to be paid for?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm driving a Lamborghini around, right? But all your needs are met.
But it's not like you need. It doesn't sound like you need to be driving a Lamborghini.
No, absolutely not. You're right. And so, what are the ways? Well, you have to put your own selfish. It's different because I'm in a position where I want to serve nature to like my highest ability. I devote my whole life to serving nature and to creating the peace on this world and the world that Babaji described to me and my guru described to me. That's my devotion. But the average human doesn't necessarily have to, go to that extent. What they can do is just sit outside, touch a tree, pray to that tree, enjoy the sunlight, touch the ground with your hands, say, I love you, Mother Nature. I love you, Mother Nature. I love you, Mother Nature. That's an easy mantra anybody can do. You say, Mother Nature, if I ever feel like I don't have the power to overcome something, I'll go to nature and I'll ask her. I'll be like, listen, I don't have the power to do this. I want to be able to make the right choice in this situation, but I know mentally right now I'm not there. Can you please give me the power to be able to do this? She'll do it. It's crazy. As long as you're not like, hey, nature, I need $1 million right now. Give it to me. Like,
it's like, that's not what you really need.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It'll probably
She'll
be like,
give you
that's
what
not what
you
you
need.
really need.
Right. It's the difference between what you need versus what you want, right? I'm willing to accept you got to learn the difference between wants and needs, but even some of your wants she'll fulfill. She'll fulfill them. Like, she'll put you on your path to like where you're supposed to be, and it's crazy. It's just how it happens. When I pray to nature and like and it comes through, it's just like I can't doubt it anymore. That's why I'm not worried about this month. Maybe I'll let myself worry for 10 seconds at a time every few days, but I just know she'll come through. I know it. And if it doesn't happen, then I need to experience something like that. So it's crazy how it all works. I can't explain it fully, but I know that if you pray to nature and you respect her, she'll put you on your path in life. No doubt. Absolutely no doubt. So pray to nature. You make that your daily thing if you want to. If you don't have a practice right now daily, how easy is it to just look at the sky or touch the earth beneath you, or to look at the moon and just pray and say whatever you want to say? It doesn't have to be, I would say I love you at some point. I think that's important to like show that you love her and you want to take care of her. But you can talk about your problems, whatever your stresses are. You say like, listen, this is bigger than me right now. This situation's bigger than me. I need your help. Like, if you're struggling and you need to get out of a situation and you know you don't have that mental strength, ask nature for the mental strength. She'll give it to you. And somehow, like, it just, you feel it. You get empowered by it. It happens. And just watch the changes that happen in your life if you do these things. Watch. It's incredible. It's so incredible. So that's what I would suggest to people.
I'm going to have to try that out. Because I do grounding, but I don't know that I I wouldn't say that I consciously connect with nature. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not like, sometimes I do, but it's not as direct as I can feel that you're speaking to it.
Right.
And do you see, the way you're talking about this, do you see a difference between God and nature?
No.
Same thing?
Yeah. I think I see Mother Nature as the supreme, but then I see God as, like, what is God though? So I can't see God. I can't touch God. I can't feel God, but I can touch nature. I can see nature. I can feel her, and I can speak with her, and I feel her replies. Like, a lot of people do have this connection with God where they can't see him or her or whatever that being, but they can still connect. But nature is very tangible.
It's very physical.
Very physical. And that's what humans need, is to be grounded, to be brought back to nature. If you look at the Native Americans' traditions in America before they were executed or exiled, or I think both, right?
It's hard to tell.
Right. I think it's both. They were very much connected with the land, very much connected with nature, very much caring of her. No footprint, no destruction. They knew that without her, they wouldn't be alive. They knew this.
It's so fascinating you're saying this, because it was like,
well, but also think about why they did what they did to these people. It's because their knowledge was that high. They didn't need to pay taxes. They didn't believe in like paying tax. Like, why do they need to pay taxes? So nature provides everything they needed. So it's like,
it doesn't come from the government.
Yeah. They were like, listen, you need to pay something. It's like, well, Mother Nature never made me pay. Why am I going to pay you? So
fits a lot in line with like the land. Whenever they came over, they were like, okay, so like, can we buy this land off of you? And they're like, what do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's everybody's.
Yeah.
And then Europeans started just putting in like, okay, well, this is my fenced off area. Yep. This is my fenced off area. It's like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's interesting. That touches on culture, because it's like that idea is so abstract, so foreign, of like, what do you mean this specific plot of land is yours? Explain that to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I find that also fascinating about, like, even where we're sitting right now.
It's countries and borders. There's no difference.
It's like, but even think about like where we're sitting right now. How many thousands of people have lived/owned this piece of land over the last 200 years? It's like, we're not going to be the last ones. So, like, whose is it really?
Very true. Yep.
Dude, Brandon, it's a pleasure talking
Yeah,
with
this
you,
was
man.
so much fun, man.
Yeah,
This
glad
was
you
great.
came.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, man. This was
Yeah.
fantastic.
This
Thank
is
you.
sick.
Yeah.
You're the first one in this new studio.
I'm
so
honored, absolutely honored. Thank you for everybody listening as well. So definitely
couldn't have been
honored
a
to
better
be
way.
here. Yeah.
Cool, dude.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should go meditate out in that park, connect with nature.
Let's do it, man.
Show me some tricks.
Gladly, happily.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's make some miracles.
All right.
I'm excited.
Awesome.
All right, guys, everyone listening, all you conscious monkeys, thank you so much. Love you all. And we'll connect on Amara. I hope so.
Yes.
One day we'll all be connected
Yes,
there on Amara.
on Amara. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. If you haven't done so already, go sign up for. Just put your email in so we can let you know when we're launching. All right.
My email's in there. Is it a Sanskrit word for something?
Yeah. Everlasting.
Everlasting.
Without end is the true translation.
Without end.
end. So Amarnath is like a god, if you will. So, but let's say Amara is without end.
Without
everlasting.
end.
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, we have to bring this podcast to an end.
Yeah.
So this podcast is not Amara. But one thing that is without end is if I don't see you guys on Amara, I will see all of you in the 6th dimension. You like that?